second. Let's get it popping. All right, 617. It looks like Jonah. We're going to be asking the phrase tonight. You can take this wherever you want it to go, but I think you kind of know where we're leading here. What does the phrase "Make America Great Again" mean? And when was America great? We are going to tackle this. I understand folks are looking at me and you thinking, oh no, I know where he's going with this. No, you do not. No, you do not. This is a MAGA-friendly audience. I like to hear the opinions of others. Free speech, no restrictions, no judging. What do you believe the phrase "Make America Great Again" means? And when was America great throughout our history? I have to ask that. I wish I could say what I want to say. What does that say? Your eyes or your eyes? Let me make it clear to you. You can hear. Now, I understand social media may impose some kind of ridiculous ban on you, but your humble correspondent, yours truly, not only will I not ban you, not only will I not block you, I will not judge your comment. Like I said here, free speech is paramount. You can say what you want to say. Find ways to abbreviate it. Replace it with symbols. Use synonyms. Get your point across. Say what you want to say. There's nobody telling you can't hear. I would like to know what you want to say. When was America great again, folks? That's the question we're asking tonight. Exactly when was America great? And what from the past was so great that you would like to implement it in today's society? That's the question we're asking. How was your day, Ayo? It was pretty good. 2,000 Mules, we talked about that earlier. We might get into that tonight. 1969. Robert Bankston. What was going on in Okay, because that's a little bit before my time. I believe, was it Kennedy got assassinated in 63 and King in 68? So the 60s was a tumultuous time. I think you're talking... Would that be right before Vietnam, or had Vietnam already started? Just in terms of what you're saying, what was going on, maybe in your own life, what made 1969 that good of a year for you? I had to ask. I'm just curious. Did you see the movie? Harris Jordan, I've seen about 40% of it. I talked about it a little bit during the lunch broadcast, but I have seen quite a bit of it, and I will see the rest of it probably tonight after this broadcast. 383 Thor. America has always been great. Some of those living here, not so much. Okay, well, let me ask you the question. And we're talking about the phrase "Make America Great Again." So that obviously means using the word again, something that has happened in the past. So I'm asking that question for those who obviously understand what I'm saying. What happened in the past to denote America was great then and perhaps not now? Good evening, modern colonizer. Good evening to you. I think it was great during the Reagan era. Well, it's interesting you would say that, because I want to show you something. I want you to look at the monitor behind me, because that was Mr. AG. You said you think it was great during the Reagan era. And you're not alone in saying it. I've heard a lot of right-wingers, Republicans, suggest that Reagan was the best president of all. Now, that sentiment kind of took a backtrack under Trump, but I want you to look at something on the monitor behind me. Let me turn my mirror my video. Okay, you see what's behind me? That is an actual pin from the Reagan campaign when Reagan ran for office in 1980. So this would have been something that would have been created probably somewhere around 1979. What do you think about that? So you say that you believe America was great during the Reagan era. Looking at that slogan, it's apparently clear that even Ronald Reagan thought that there was a great America that preceded him, because that's an actual campaign slogan. And I believe for this particular program, I actually have, this one here is kind of small, but they were certainly using, it appears they certainly were using that slogan pretty thoroughly back in the early 1980s. So that's what would make me ask the question, what do you think is the time period in history when America was great? Another uneducated man, tough scene. Well, I love being judged by another man, M. Blosky. I love it. But you're suggesting that Ronald Reagan was also uneducated? Biden is second best. Incop. 252. If you're suggesting that Biden is second best, I would love to know who you believe is first. I've never heard anyone, even on the liberal side of the aisle, suggest that Biden is the best president. I don't even believe his wife, the first lady. If you asked her who was the best liberal president in history, I don't know if she would even answer that. I don't think she would put Biden in there. Good question, but Trumpers' brains are so small to understand it. Critical thinking mindset. Let's not say that all Trumpers' brains are small, just like I say the same thing when they say that about liberals. But I would ask you guys, what point in history do you believe America was great? And what about that period in history that was so great that you would like to bring it forward and implement it now in 2022? What aspects of history were so great you want to have it that way now in 2022? JFK had it most right. K-Web, JFK was a very successful president for a very short period of time, but obviously somebody took his life that disagreed with you. Before Nixon, America was great before Nixon. Okay. Robert Banks said, okay. Any thoughts on May 18th taking our freedom? Red Sea, what is going to take place in 7 days that's going to take away our freedom? Everything. This is coming from Vox S Triple H. Everything was better under Trump. I don't know about that. And I'm not here to bash Trump. I make that clear. My preferred audience, obviously, I make that also clear. My preferred audience is MAGA. That's who I prefer to speak with. This is a MAGA-friendly room. But in regards to everything being better under Trump, I don't think unity would qualify. I wouldn't say unity in this country was better under Trump. Now, we can point out the country is not necessarily unified under Biden either. It's certainly, Biden was elected to be a unifier. Even the folks on the right say he was elected to be a unifier. Now, he's clearly failing at that. However, if you suggest that Biden was elected to be a unifier and he failed at his job, you have to ask the question, why was he elected to be a unifier in the first place? So it's pretty clear that Trump was not delivering on unity, because even folks on the right suggest that Biden was the one elected to do that. Let's hear. We are the greatest country in all time. Politics for the layman. I like your name. I love that. Best country of all time? Okay. I mean, listen, I've lived overseas. I've been to a few other countries. I can think of pros and cons with America versus other countries. For instance, marijuana, the illegalization, creating a black market in America has ruined a lot of lives, whereas it's legal in other places. It is legal to do that. So that's a freedom that you might enjoy in Western Europe that you still cannot thoroughly enjoy in the United States. And I could come up with a host of things like that. Gay marriage has been legal in other countries long before it was here. Interracial marriage was legal in other countries long before it was here. So when you say America's the best country of all time, I will say that although I'm a huge fan of my own nation, there are a lot of things I can point to and say that we could have got that right sooner, or we still need to get that right. I mean, there's a lot of areas, so it depends on where you're going with that. 28% rating. In regards to what, Red Sea? What has a 28% rating? Gas prices has nothing to do with Biden. Okay. Well, you'll never hear me say that. You'll never hear me say anything crazy like that. Just the fact that Biden decided to allow drilling, talked about potentially opening up the pipelines, and gas prices started falling shows that he could have something to do with it. I mean, he was able to make it fall a little bit just by making a few moves. But you're going to tell me he didn't cause it to raise it all? No, I'm not going to buy that. Before Biden was president, he wasn't elected. He was selected. Tinkerbell. We're not going to buy that either until you show me some proof that Biden was selected as opposed to elected. And you need to show me who selected Biden. Remember, this audience, my preferred audience, my MAGA folks, you believe Biden can barely even string together two sentences. He cannot even talk without reading off a teleprompter. Who the hell would select that? Seriously. If he wasn't elected, who the hell would select something like that? That makes no sense at all. Some of you folks believe he won't even survive his first term. Actually, he may actually go Betty White on us. Who would select something like that? That doesn't make any sense. Unity wasn't good with anyone but Reagan and JFK and FDR. Well, Reagan got 49 out of 50 states in the Electoral College, so there's no denying that unity under Reagan was phenomenal. And I know coming from a liberal side, there were a lot of liberals during the time who had issues with him. That's fine. But his Electoral College victories make it clear he was definitely down with some unity. Or definitely responsible for some unity. Biden can't unify two sentences. It is interesting you would say that, modern colonizer, because right after you, Incog 252 says Biden is the next Abraham Lincoln. So you're over here in that the next Abraham Lincoln. Wow, that is a hell of an accolade. I guess I would have to ask the question in regards to suggesting that Biden is the next Abraham Lincoln. What is he going to do to have that strong of a legacy? Now, keep in mind, a lot of stuff had to happen for Abraham Lincoln to be Abraham Lincoln, specifically the Civil War and ending slavery. What is Biden going to do to compete with something like that? And I use this, I ask stuff like this because I've had several videos where I've asked, in regards to Trump, do you believe he was the greatest of all time? Was President Trump the GOAT? And I have no shortage of Trump supporters, conservatives, my favorite audience, my MAGA folks, that do suggest that they believe Trump was the greatest president of all time. And I bring up Abraham Lincoln, since you mentioned him in the fact that he freed the slaves, or JFK, someone mentioned, in working with Lyndon Johnson and giving us civil rights, or women the right to vote, sending folks to the moon, defeating Nazis. And I have to ask, what did Trump do that would put him in that category? Now, I have an answer to my own question. I think Trump's legacy at this point is huge, as he says. He has a hugely successful legacy. The problem is, because of how he done things, he can't necessarily take credit for it, and that is the vaccine. I know how you guys feel about the vaccine, so I'm not here trying to promote any damn thing to you, but I will say, the Center for Disease Control is crediting the vaccine with saving, over 100 million lives. That's Trump. That is Trump. Now he is responsible for rolling back Roe versus Wade, which also will be worthy of millions of lives. All of that's Trump. He is probably at this point the biggest lifesaver since the Coast Guard. He could actually be known as the life-saving president. But unfortunately, when it comes to COVID, because of how he rolled it out, he cannot take credit for Operation Warp Speed and brag about that because his own crowd will boo him. Okay, let me get back to the comments moving forward. Did somebody call in? Let me see here. The lines are open, by the way, if you want to go ahead and call through. First Step Act. Yeah, do you know Lyndon B. Johnson quote regarding the lowest white man? No, I do not. What is the quote regarding Lyndon Johnson, in regards to Lyndon Johnson regarding the lowest white man? I do not know that quote, but I know what's about to happen. I know what's about to happen. Harris Jordan is about to come in here and tell me a new one. Good evening, Harris. What's up? I don't have any audio. Hang on, Harris.
There we go.
Okay, I got you. What's up?
Yeah, it was acting up. So, first of all, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Doing real good.
Secondly, Biden can't even unify his butt cheeks in front of the Pope. So,
I had a breakup. I heard your second one with Biden's butt cheeks, but what did you say was number one? Give me your first one again.
Biden can't even unify his butt cheeks in front of the Pope.
No, I heard that. You had two, didn't you? Can't unify his butt cheeks in front of the Pope. Okay, fair enough. Listen, I'm not here to pretend like Biden is a unifier. He's not successful. Well, let me say this, because I often get a lot of you guys suggesting that no one ever gave Trump credit. No one ever gave Trump a chance since day one. Well, if you believe that Biden is an illegitimate leader, how could he ever possibly be a unifying president? If you don't think he deserves to even be there, he's not going to ever be able to unify any of them. He's going to get resistance constantly because you think he stole his position. So anyone who would have thought he would have been go ahead.
Let me ask this. They stole the primary from Bernie Sanders, so why wouldn't they steal it from Trump?
Well, the difference is with Bernie Sanders, and I understand Trump was the one that first brought that up when he said it's rigged and talking about Hillary Clinton. And there's a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters that actually agree with you on that. I will say the problem with that whole situation is that both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump ran under parties that they are not. Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat. Trump is not a Republican. And the proof is looking at what has happened since Trump has joined the Republican Party. All of the Republican establishment are all called rhinos now. Trump has essentially changed the party into the Trump party. And Bernie Sanders would have done the same thing, because if you look at the Democrats, most of the established Democrats, they don't like Bernie Sanders. Those two gentlemen are not representative of the parties they ran for. They were trying to run to change those parties. And Hillary Clinton and the Democrats were not having it. Unfortunately, on the Republican side, for folks like Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and all of them, they were not able to stop Trump. But go ahead.
Well, but I mean, that's kind of the point, right? Is Trump was drastically changing how people thought on both sides.
But he should have ran as an independent. He should have ran as an independent, though. He's not a Republican.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I think he should not have run as a Republican. I think he should have shaken up the whole system. But the fact is, he did run as a Republican. He is still running as a Republican, and he is shaking both political parties to their core. He is literally making every single person of the establishment make sure that they choose he is making them show exactly what they're about. He's making everybody show what they have been trying to hide for the last 20 years that have been in office. He's forcing them to show exactly what they're about.
Okay, it looks like I'm gonna respond the same way Lang F60 said. He said not really, and I'm gonna say the same thing, that although I believe Trump definitely has given politics lip service to what you're saying, he said exactly what you're saying. But when you look at, after him being in office for 4 years, what he actually did in regards to shaking up, he didn't really. I mean, all of the nefarious characters, the swamp that Trump talked about when he was running for office in 2015, all of those swamp characters that he was going to drain, they are all still there. He didn't drain a single one of them. He talked about shaking up things in Washington. All of it. Remember, he was going to get rid of 2 government offices for every one he created. None of that stuff actually happened. He talked about shaking up Washington, but Mitt Romney hasn't went anywhere. Well, Liz Cheney's now all of a sudden a rhino. Clearly, Dr. Fauci survived him. What nefarious character, or give me a swamp creature that Trump drained? As far as I'm concerned, everybody he fired, he brought with him. Those are all people that he actually appointed himself that he fired.
Well, there's now 34 plus Democrats that are no longer seeking re-election.
Okay, that's a fair point. I guess we could say that is because of Trump, but I suppose they could present their own argument. I was about to retire, or this or that. But that's a fair point.
So I mean, I do agree with you. There are still a lot of people that I think are deeply involved in what Trump called the swamp, that were so rooted that it's extremely difficult to get them out. And I do think that, in a way, I think Mitch McConnell is one of them. I think he's made a lot of backdoor deals. Nancy Pelosi is one of them. Why do I always forget his name? The guy from New York, the Senate Majority Leader right now. Schumer, yes. Chuck Schumer is definitely one of them. Adam Schiff, absolutely. I mean, he literally lied on national TV during a committee hearing, trying to say, oh, well, this is what Trump said, not knowing that Trump had released the transcript of a phone call, and then when he was called out on it, he was like, oh, well, I was just kidding, guys. Don't look at that anymore.
Well, like I say on all of the broadcasts, if it came down to pointing out politicians that lied, we would never run out of. I mean, even up to and including Trump, who's supposedly not a typical politician. I don't think there's anybody in here watching that would suggest that Trump has never told a lie. At the end of the day, they all lie. It's just a matter of to what degree.
Right, and I think a lot of it too is also, what was the intent of the lie? Why did they lie in that specific scenario? Why did they lie? What are they lying to us about, and why were they trying to what were they trying to throw us off of by lying?
Well, speaking of lies and why the hell would they say a lie? Let me ask you this question. Jacob L. Kiko asked, do you think Democrats drink babies' blood? You know where that's coming from. You know who said that. Do you believe that is true?
No, I don't believe those. Okay. I don't believe the extreme conspiracies like that.
Okay.
I think that
all right.
I think that there are certain types of, I wouldn't go as far to say secret societies. I think there are a lot of groups in which rich elites are a part of and hang out in. Do I think that they do nefarious things, evil things like that? No, not really.
Okay. Well, and obviously
I cannot, I can't submit to those type of extreme.
Thank God. I feel a lot more confident speaking to you when you would answer like that. But that, yeah, obviously when you said you have to know the reason why people lie, obviously I suppose that was done to demonize the Democrats to some insanely low level. When you started looking into the QAnon folks, everybody they just like with liberals, particularly African Americans and minorities, everybody they hate is considered a racist. When you look at the right wing, everybody they hate is considered a socialist. With QAnon, it became an abuser of children. Everybody they hated was somehow doing things to children, and to some degree, that's still. Go ahead.
But you have to look at some of the facts that are based in those conspiracies, right? Like people started saying, well, there is a conspiracy at Disney, right? And everybody was like, you are absolutely crazy. And then all of a sudden, 150 employees from Disney World were arrested on child porn charges.
Okay. Well, the crazy thing about that is, and I'm assuming you're old enough too to know about the Catholic scandal. We were talking about whether it's Hillary Clinton and children, or even Joe Biden and children, or like you mentioned, Disney. You notice among the right evangelicals, there never was any outcry of any significant nature about the Catholic Church. And that went on for probably 50 years or more. And there never was the same level of outcry about that. And it's obviously certainly been proven so that the Catholic Church was deeply involved in the abusing of children. And you never really heard. Go ahead.
Well, and I agree with you. We never really heard about it, and it was very suppressed in the media. People were trying to get it out there, but this is going to sound dumb when I say this, but just bear with me. Who makes up a vast majority of Catholics in politics? That would be Democrats. Democrats are more Catholic than Republicans are.
Okay, I can't. I don't know if I can submit to that. I'm not a Catholic, so I can't speak on that. But I know when it comes to, and let me say this also. I don't believe that was just in regards to Catholicism. I believe religion as a whole allows you to have positions of power and do things like that. I'm assuming that whether you're Lutheran, obviously Mormon, like Mitt Romney, that stuff is happening in a lot more religions than just Catholicism. They just got caught.
Yes. I mean, there is another religion that does do crimes against children a lot more than most, but I'm not going to say it because it would get me in a lot of trouble for saying it.
Well, I'll start out by telling you the Mormons absolutely have a lot to do with that stuff. But go ahead.
Well, and you're right. That is another religion that does have a lot of that involved, but there is still one more religion that literally has that, running rampant through its entire religion, its churches, its places of worship, and everything, and nobody talks about it.
I need to know. This is a no snowflake zone. You can't come that close to the fence. This is not a home improvement where the guy will be at the fence with his nose. I need you to remove the mask. I need to know what you're talking. Give me that religion.
So I'm not gonna say it, but they do not believe in Jesus Christ. They believe in a different prophet.
Dianetics?
No, they believe in
It's
believe in
Tom.
Muhammad.
Okay. All right. I was thinking of something related to Tom Cruise, but okay, you're talking for the Middle East. Okay, all right. And I do agree with that as well because of their customs and things like that. But I mean, like I said, I think that if you look deep enough into any religion, you will find plenty of this stuff. Power corrupts people. And other than in politics, or rather being in royalty, the next step is religion. They have a lot of power, just like royalty and just like politicians do. And they regularly abuse it. They have a history of abusing it. So, in my opinion, it happens in just about every religion. But I'm just bringing this up because the right is normally the side that really is pro-religious, and they did not hold Catholics accountable very much. There's a lot of atheists on the Democratic side. We don't promote religion anywhere near as strongly as the right does. In fact, you guys want it back in schools. You want it on flags. You want it on police cars. If you left it up to the left, you wouldn't have religion on anything in this country. So it's for the most part, it's the right. And I'm just like, I didn't hear any outcry from you guys on that.
Well, I did when I was growing up, and when I did see the outcry about it. I mean I did see it, and I saw it more from people that were on the right side of the aisle more than I saw it from the people on the left side of the aisle. And I grew up literally my best friend in the entire world. He is literally my brother. We know each other since kindergarten. He is a Catholic, and they never ever talked about it. Whenever somebody brought it up, they literally walked away from the conversation.
Okay, fair.
They would not. They refused to talk about it.
Okay, let me take it in a because you and I talk a lot, and I always appreciate talking to you. I got a comment from Whimsical Vibes in the comments, and like I said, no snowflakes, guys. I entertain anything. I want you to answer this question because I'm assuming it would be directed at someone like you or any of you other guys who watch regularly. So you can anybody watching can answer this question. His question is, why do you people still entertain this guy? Obviously talking about your humble correspondent, talking about me. I've literally seen him through 5 or 6 lives getting ripped. So he's suggesting that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I get defeated over and over again. And the question is, why the hell do you even continue watching? Being an open-minded, free speech kind of guy, I'm willing to throw that question out there and toss myself to the wolves. So I'm going to ask you first, Harris, why? Based on his comment, why? And I really enjoy talking to you, but why?
He's talking about me. He's saying that I'm always getting ripped in other lives, which is not true. But the reason it's important and the reason I talk to you often is because discussion is important.
Absolutely.
We
so
are not going to get anywhere.
It was aimed at you.
Yeah, it was aimed at me. So we are not going to get anywhere, right? We're not going to go from the right and the left to the center together unless we talk. Now, it is okay for us to get upset with each other sometimes. It is okay to get loud sometimes. But here's the difference between you and me and other people, especially on this app, is you and I always come back together. Like yesterday, I got really upset, right? And,
yeah, you did.
And you cut me off, and now I'm back, and I'm being a lot more civil today.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do tend to ask some of the tough questions, and I leave it open, and folks bring their passion. Somebody said, who was that? Go ahead.
Someone just said that I speak with no common sense. So
I don't agree with that.
Do you feel that I speak with no common sense? Okay. Did you watch that video that I sent you?
Not yet. I've been watching 2000 Mules a lot. I was working and watching that at the same time, and because I had it in my ear, I would have to stop driving. I wanted to look down at the phone. I was really into 2000 Mules. But no, I don't see that. I thoroughly enjoy talking to you. I'll let you get your point across. We don't always agree, and that's fine. That is absolutely fine. That's why I welcome you and anyone else, particularly MAGA, and I know you're MAGA. I enjoy talking to you guys. So no, I don't see that. Somebody said something, though, that I wanted to respond with. Somebody said, you speak with no common sense. Okay, that was Thomas Vision that said that. He said, I said ask, like a lot of African Americans, instead of saying the word ask, A-S-K, we actually say A-X-E. And I guess he really wanted to point that out, which was funny. But all right, go ahead. I'm just laughing at these comments coming in.
Well, I think it's important to note that there was an important vote today in the Senate, and it was shot down.
That shit wasn't important. Nobody thought that had a chance. That was only done to grandstand and maybe get a little bit of transparency, but
I don't
nobody
know.
expected that.
Kamala seemed extremely disappointed when she said that it didn't pass. I mean, she seemed like really dejected. She said, "It doesn't pass," like with her head down and everything. Like she said it so dejected, it was kind of funny.
Well, she's being a politician, but I will say this: it is out of that vote, which I expected to go no damn where. There was one thing that upset me, and that is, and even though I know we expected him to go to San Juan, Joe Manchin. I'm, I've heard you guys call lots of folks rhinos and saying folks are traitors and treat. Joe Manchin, I really would have to look at the liberals and what the hell do you need this guy for? I mean, he essentially is the opposition wearing blue. Like, what do you need? I mean, Joe Manchin, last I heard, he voted with Biden 70% of the time, and it has to have fallen below that. Like, what is you? If he is a liberal, you might as well just hang out with the Republicans. He is of no good to the Liberal Party. So, and of course, I think the liberals got 50 votes in regards to this. What you're talking about? They needed 60.
It was 49. It was
Okay,
49 to 51.
Okay, yeah, there you go. You're right. 49 to 51. If they had have gotten Manchin, it would have been 50, and then I guess it would have been Kamala Harris.
Yes,
but that still wouldn't have made the filibuster though. But I'm just simply saying Joe Manchin can almost always be counted on if it's some of the more prominent liberal legislation. Joe Manchin can be counted on to be on the other side. I just don't understand.
Right. They would have had to, in order to make it pass or even have a chance, they would have had to use the Harry Reid option, which is the nuclear option,
right.
and it still wouldn't have passed.
And I don't want that. If let me tell you from a liberal side of the aisle, I would prefer to see Roe versus Wade get overturned because we have a crappy president in office right now, somebody we can't rally behind. So we need something to rally behind. I would rather see Roe versus Wade get overturned, and then that way the liberals will be galvanized in the next several elections, constantly trying to seek 60 votes in the Senate. So it'll always give them a reason to have a strong approach to the Senate because now they have something to fight for, the same way the right has been fighting to overturn Roe v. Wade. So it may actually lead to a lot more females voting with a stronger number until they can finally get 60. But having to look at Joe Biden as a reason to go vote, that wasn't enough. That wasn't going to do anything. So hopefully they get to overturn Roe v. Wade. Also, I will say this. Because we say it's fear mongering, it's political spin, whatever you want to call it. But if they overturn Roe v. Wade, it's also going to galvanize the Democrats because they're going to constantly keep telling us, well, next they're coming at the LGBT rights, next they're coming at the black people and minorities. So it will help galvanize that side of the aisle. But go ahead.
Right. So yesterday we had two more primaries, Nebraska and West Virginia. And looking at the vote totals, I was proven right again. The Democrats, like let's take Nebraska for instance. Nebraska, they have over 300. They have 386,000 registered Democrats in Nebraska. They only got 96,000 people in the Democratic Party to turn out.
It's not going to be easy.
The Republicans have 600. The Republicans have 686,000 registered voters in Nebraska, and they had over 300,000 people turn out.
Well, at least
so
we can say
the energy. I don't see the firing up of the Democratic Party. I do not see it.
Well, I will say at least we can say that happened in Nebraska. Nobody's expecting Nebraska to have a big Democratic presence anyway. Somebody, Miss Steph said, I thought you were a conservative.
But you should.
In Nebraska?
Yes, because they are being galvanized. They are being fired up.
No. Right? No. You're not going to have Democrats.
There's 386,000 Democrats. Not even 100,000 turned out to vote. Okay. You're telling me that not even 50% of Democrats can turn out to vote?
Well, it looks bad. Let me not try to spin it too damn far. It looks bad, but
I'm gonna leave it at that. But let me see how further along this goes. And I will also say this: when they actually do overturn Roe versus Wade, you're gonna have, because right now they're protesting, they're hanging outside of judges' houses and everything, and all of this is based on a freaking draft. It's not based on an actual decision. Wait till the actual decision comes down, and then the liberals start going around the country finding women who have used hangers and women who, are found, left a baby on a seat and now she's getting charged with murder. Then the Democrats will actually have material to work off of. Right now, it's just we expect that they're about to do this and they're pissed off. It'll probably get a little bit better once they get actual tangible stuff to work with.
Well, I mean, the issue with me is everybody says this was leaked out from the Supreme Court to fire up the Democratic base, right? And it is not showing up in the polls. Everybody in the comments talking about, well, it's not November yet. It doesn't matter. This should turn out the Democratic base in droves, and it is just not simply doing it. The Democratic Party has been defeated, and they are detracted.
I get your point, but I'm still going to say it's pretty early. But listen, I got somebody else in here. It's still early. I'm gonna still ride with that and say it's still early. But look, let me go ahead and move the program on. We'll see what happens.
All right, man.
All right, you have a good one. Okay, always good to talk to my boy Harry.
Good. Okay. Modern Colin now is another frequent viewer, frequent caller. Let's see what's.
Boy, tonight is an independent, so he's smack dab in the middle, but leans right. Modern Colin now. So what's up this evening?
What's up, brother? Oh man,
nothing at all.
I'm independent.
Let me start by first. Did I actually peg you right? You're smack in the middle, but lean right.
Maybe. I'll reiterate it. I'm a libertarian, which inherently puts me into the conservative camp. But I don't agree with a lot of what conservatives say, and I think when we, to sum it all up, when we have conversations like this, we realize we're not that far apart. The people that represent the parties are the psycho 5% on both sides, and I think there's a good chunk of America that thinks sensibly like me and you.
Okay, fair enough. At this point in time, I'm gonna respond to what Thomas Vision said. Do you agree that the Democrats are currently destroying the country?
I believe that Democratic politicians are, and I think that for whatever reason, Democrats in America are willing to see the country suffer in order to get their way.
That's some strong language. Wow.
I think
I will partially agree that. I'll partially agree from this standpoint. I do believe that when a politician represents the opposing side, you're going to have some of his opposition that is willing to see the country burn rather than see that person succeed. And I think that comes from both sides. So I will agree with that standpoint. Before you get into your spiel, let me ask you this one other question, which is the title of this particular piece. And that is, when do you believe America was great? And if you have an error, what about that error would you think that is so great you want to be implemented in 2022 or 2024?
Right, and that's the whole reason I joined. Well, also because I seen Harris come in, and I always do well right after Harris, although he stayed.
You said that last night. You said the same shit last night.
he stayed on his rocker last night. But I'll put it this way. We've never been perfect. Absolutely not. Right. And if I were to look at an era where I was like, man, I'm proud of America, it'd probably be right post World War II. And we still had a long way to go, civil rights movement and everything like that. But I'm just saying, when you looked at the quality of the American person, the character of the American person as a whole, I think that's who I would want to represent us, is that short period right after World War II, And what I will say though about America is, what's crazy, I don't know how the founding fathers, the framers of this country, got it so right, yet forgot about the slavery part. You know what I mean? Because the rest of it, real quick, real quick, because the rest of it, if it was applied to every person in this country, we would have just nailed that son of a bitch out of the park. But how did we segregate an entire population is where we'll always be able to say America was never great, right?
Yeah.
But what I will say about America and its greatness is that we are the one country, and other countries have modeled themselves after us about this, where the people have the ability to are supposed to have the ability to change the course of their nation and their destiny. And that's what makes us great, is we are able to have this conversation here. I'm not saying we're the only country, right? But
Right.
we started throughout the entire world. We were the only country that started based on the principle that the people should govern themselves. We allow the government to exist. Before that, it was always the government permits the people to exist. So
Okay.
just that concept is what makes able
All right.
to be.
Well, this in Donald Jackson, I do see you in there, but I will say this in regards to this country. I do believe it certainly is, if not the best, one of the best countries on earth. But however, when you talk about the original sin of slavery, I will say that when you look at slavery, Native Americans, and things like that, without that original sin, we probably would not be the greatest country on earth. I mean, you got, and the reason, I guess the best way I would sum it up is that if you can get not necessarily free labor, but all of the manpower, or a large portion of the manpower from a different country, it's certainly going to make your country much better. Let's say France was able to take all or the vast majority of the manpower from Italy and force those Italians to work in France for free. France is going to come up with all kinds of innovation, farming, which is what we were doing. It's going to be phenomenal because you've essentially stolen the manpower from this other country. Then, of course, Italy would probably be way the hell behind because they're missing several generations of manpower. So I will say that I do believe it from that standpoint, that one of the reasons we are so great is we had a very, I'd say, a key advantage. And we're not the only country that utilized slaves. A lot of the other countries that utilize slaves are better also. They're better than their neighbors as well, because of you getting a ton of free labor, free manpower. It's almost like if everybody has to shovel their own snow, but you're able to take your neighbor's husband and make him. It's your area is probably going to be cleaner than most houses on the block because you got a ton of free labor. So I will say that in regards to us being one of the better countries, and I definitely think we are, that advantage certainly helped out. Go ahead.
I absolutely agree, and that's a part of the reason I made the name I make, right? Because for my username, it's because we all benefit from the dirt America has done. And if you don't think so, or you think you're able to pick and choose what benefits you or not, you're wrong. We all benefit on the backs of slavery. Unfortunately, this country, just like you just said, we would not be where we are without all that work that they put in, right? We would not have the financial resources we have without our imperialism and our colonialism. We've done some dirty things, but you know what? And I'm not justifying it. I'm not doing any of that. I don't know exactly what I'm doing with this, but what I'm saying is I've said this before, we judge our poverty level based on the size of our flat screen, right?
Yeah.
And it's because of the dirt we do. So if you like the creature comforts you have in America, but you don't like, I don't like what we've done either, but do you get what I'm getting at? It's hard for me to articulate it.
I totally agree with that. Now, let me ask you this. What do you think about this comment coming from Brown Sugar Lady? She's, and I mean, I can tell by her comment, there's passion in it. She said, if that's the case, then stop denying it all the damn time and own it. What do you think about a comment like that?
I've absolutely never denied.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about you personally, but you kind of understand what she's suggesting, that this country, the powers that be in this country, the educators in this country, the historians in this country, have had a hard time coming correct on what actually took place. That's the point she's trying to make.
It's a very dirty, painful past, and I'm not justifying it, but it would be no different than something absolutely heinous happening in your family, you don't wash your dirty laundry in your front yard, right? To me, it'd be no different than taking a very dirty family secret and putting it out in front into the neighborhood. We don't advertise these things, so it's hard for people to confront their past on anything, and I think the idea that, see, we can't hide from it. We need, because that's the thing. If you hide from it, you don't acknowledge how we got here, and the idea that we're going to tear down. First of all, Civil War leaders. That's the only people I know of that have statues that lost. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why.
I said that before, that in my opinion, Civil War statues are kind of like participation trophies. I don't understand how and what makes it particularly rough is that there are some Confederate Civil War statues in northern areas. So essentially, you got a group of folks who started a war in effort to succeed. Whether you think it's over slavery, states' rights, who cares? I'm just simply saying that the South started a war to secede from the Union, lost the war, and they're putting up statues to honor themselves on the soil of the victors. That would literally be like Saddam Hussein losing the war to America and actually erecting statues of Iraqis in America. Like, you lost the war, you didn't even win, and then you want to put a statue on the soil of the victor. I never could understand that.
Right. And when we were speaking a couple nights ago, we were talking about because the Roe v. Wade and states' rights argument and stuff like that. And late 1700s, if we were to talk about fighting for states' rights, you'd absolutely have something to stand on. The problem is the people who claim to stand for states' rights have absolutely perverted it and used it to oppress people. So I don't care if the Civil War was over slavery or if it was over states' rights, what they were going to do with those states' rights. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
And since you mentioned it, Rodney Burns made an interesting comment. This is a very common comment. Rodney Burns, 54, said, "I have a rebel flag hanging high in my home. Heritage, not hate." And that could be so. I don't hold anybody at fault for hanging a Confederate flag or a rebel flag or a Dixie flag or whatever you want to call it, the battle flag. The issue I have, particularly after seeing what happened when athletes like Colin Kaepernick took a knee, or liberals set fire to flags and burn flags. When that patriotism comes out of you, in regards to Colin Kaepernick supposedly disrespecting the flag, or some liberal setting Old Glory on fire, and that passion comes out of you to defend that flag that stands for your country. But then when the Klan wears a KKK, the KKK has a Confederate flag on their patch, the same folks who are saying heritage and not hate, they don't have a lot of passion to go against the KKK. If you truly care about that flag and it represents your heritage, represents your ancestry, represents the rebellion inside of you, why is there no passion from Confederate supporters when the KKK walks? I mean, virtually all of the white supremacist groups utilize that flag in some way or another. Even Dylan Roof, when he walked in the church out there in Carolina and shot up a bunch of folks, he had the flag on him. And you heard more people getting mad at Nikki Haley for taking the flag off the Capitol building than they were getting angry at Dylan Roof for shooting up a bunch of people. So that's all I'm saying, is that it just like with Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter goes down the street calling for the killing of cops. Well, it dirties the movement. They're rioting and looting. Well, if you allow somebody to put a flag, the battle flag, on the side of somebody spewing all kinds of hate, how could you not understand the same thing? It hurts your movement when you're not saying anything about these folks saying all kinds of hateful stuff while wearing your flag. Does that make any sense?
Not at all. And that's why, even though we've got some different views, the reason I like you so much is you call the pitch the same both ways. And that's all that anybody is ever entitled to and has ever asked for, is call it the same both ways. See, for Kaepernick, I might not have appreciated it at the time, at the exact moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
right.
Because, and I think I've said it in this live, like, it was the same when Bob Costas came over on Sunday right after Sandy Hook. Like, hey, this is my escape, man. Don't bring your politics here. You know what I mean? I just want to watch some ball, right? But
Right.
I'm a combat vet. I stand for his right to take that knee and to live in a country where you don't have to face the flag for the national anthem or you'll end up in a gulag. You know what I mean? And I stand for people's, man, I love that flag. If I see you burning it, I'm probably going to try to jack it from you, but I'm not going to beat you for it. You know what I mean? First of all, because I'm too
Fair
cute.
enough. Fair enough.
My main reason,
Well,
so, but
go ahead.
is that I'm too cute for prison. That's why I'm not going to beat anyone up over it. You know what I mean? But the other thing is that the thing is, ask any combat vet who actually was a combat vet, and you saw what people sacrificed in, the fight for the Constitution. That, man, I got to make sure that it applies to every other 330 million Americans out here, not just the ones that stand on my side. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up with you, but I'm gonna ask you one more question before I get you out of here. And by the way, folks, you can make 10,000 likes happen if you really gave a shit about your boy, right? Click the screen, get my likes up. Let's see if we can get 10,000 in here right quick. Okay, Thomas Vision, who's been in the comments tonight, dropping some real zingers. Like I said, no snowflake zone. I'll let you speak. I tackle any and all comments. He stated, you want to erase everybody else's history. Now, I'm going to ask your opinion on that. Do you believe, for instance, taking down a Confederate statue, do you believe that is, okay, let's say it's a statue of Stonewall Jackson, General Lee, or whoever. If you take down General Lee's statue, do you believe that erases the history of General Lee?
I'll put it this way: if there was a Civil War museum and he had a 30-foot tall statue in there, I would say that's a place where that statue would belong, or whatever. To name a school after him, to just have that thing up at a public library or a town, whatever, I think is inappropriate. Just for the humorous part of y'all lost. You don't get to put statues up when you lost. But
Yeah.
secondly, is there's nothing about the Civil War on the Southern side to me that stands for anything I want to stand for, right? I mean, if you're talking
Well,
about
wait a minute. Wait a minute. What,
if
what
you're talking
about what about the
tyrannical,
fight against taxation and states' rights?
right? If you're talking about the fight against the tyrannical government, well, what about the one we got right now? Because I think what is happening in America today is 10 times worse than the North was ever trying to do to the South. We're just trying to think of it this way: they were just trying to get them to pay their fair share. You guys got all this capital going on down there, and you're not putting into the rest of America. And they were putting a stop to that. You know what I mean? I just look at it this way, man. If you are going to say that, Stonewall Jackson is a part of American history, and if you take down his statue, then you're destroying the history. Like, and nobody forgot about the Civil War, man. It's still, it might not be taught properly, but
And I I
it's
think
still taught.
I would agree with everything you just said.
And if I could just wrap up, I always appreciate you having me on. Somebody said I didn't fight for the flag, and I fought for what it represents, and then somebody else said it's just a piece of cloth, and this, that, and the other. When I look at that flag, I look at there's I think it's like 1.1 or 1.2 million people have died since the Revolutionary War in defense of that flag, so that I could be born into a country where I judged my poverty level by the size of my flat screen. A lot of people died to get us into this comfort, okay? And I still owe some blood, sweat, and tears to that next generation in that sense. So, hey, what it means to me doesn't have to be what it means to you. And that's why America's great, brother.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well said, man. Come on back through. You know how it works.
Yes, sir. Have a great night. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Okay, we got.
Before I go to my next call, and I made it clear I do see you. Somebody said, "Oh man, I want to see that." Damn, I hate when TikTok moves it up. If you don't teach truth, you're teaching a lie. That is certainly true, but that's not the comment I was looking for. Okay. So should we? This is forest fire. So should we rip down the Statue of Liberty because it might offend someone? In regards to the Confederate statues, first of all, let me make it clear: history is not based on a statue. We all know who Bin Laden is, and he doesn't have a statue in America at all. So the idea that you need a statue to preserve your history has never made sense to me. And I also bring up, I can't think of his name right now, but the coach at Penn State a few years back, he was tied to a whole lot of abusive children. Somebody on the coaching staff was abusing kids, and he was helping the guy hide Paterno or whatever his name was in Pennsylvania University. Anyway, he had a statue in front of the school because he had won so many games coaching the Penn State football team. And when all of the pedophilia stuff came out, they took his statue down. Does that erase all of the history and all of the games he's won at that school? No, it does not. Yeah, Jerry Sandusky was the actual abuser. You're right. Paper chasing 589. Exactly. And he was helping Jerry Sandusky get away with doing that stuff. And Joe Paterno, which is also in the comments from Trump Trained Biden. So you guys clearly know what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. And they took down Joe Paterno's statue. Does that erase the entire legacy of Joe Paterno at Penn State just because he doesn't have a statue? That doesn't make any sense that folks are saying, well, taking down a statue is erasing history. How much history do you read in school that has no statue related to it? I mean, to me, that never made sense. History is history. You can't erase history. You can hide it. You can lie about it, but it happened. You can't undo that. And like modern colonizers stated, nobody's forgot about the Civil War. These folks have all types of shit dedicated to them, from schools to streets to parks. You go down south, they named everything after these people. Taking down one statue is not going to take their history away. Okay, next caller here. If my internet is frozen up some kind of way. I was about to let somebody in. Okay, here we go. Donald Jackson and Devil Dog for Life. I see you in Jeff as well. Let's see if
the internet's been a little flaky. They take down the statue because they don't want. Damn, I didn't see that. What was it about to say there? TikTok is really going crazy. Donald Jackson. Good evening. What's up?
How's it going?
Hey, you the man. You the man. You're new to the program, I believe, right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. What's on your mind tonight?
Oh, I'm a true Democrat, so I just like watching your show.
Hey, I appreciate that. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, my preferred audience is MAGA, but I have no problem with liberals coming in here. Like I said, it's a no snowflake zone. You get your point across, say what the hell you want to say. So what's going on?
I think we lost him. Okay, fair enough. It happens. It definitely happens. So we'll move on to Devil Dog for Life.
Appreciate your service. Jefferson Davis have learning institutions in Alabama. Okay, the North had no problem prospering from the product of the South. That is true, NGA Brule Coleman. That is absolutely true. Devil Dog, what's up?
I just wanted to say there's something on my mind that's chapping my keister right now.
Ooh, chapping the keister. Is it coming from yours truly? Am I messing up?
No. We have a shortage of formula in this country. We have a shortage in all of this shit, and then freaking Congress just passes another bill for $40 billion in aid to Ukraine. That's what pissed me off.
You're not the only one that is pissed off with sending aid to the Ukraine, but I will say this: no matter what our government does with our tax money, there's always going to be citizens that are pissed off. A lot of folks are saying, instead of helping out the Ukrainians, why not help out the homeless, or why not help our veterans? If you'd done that, there would be Americans that would be pissed off with that too. You know, the country is just, with the size of America, there are always going to be people that are pissed off. But I will say this: I believe that there are more people in favor of helping the Ukrainians out than not. So, but go ahead. I'll let you continue.
I agree. We should help as much as we can, but at the same time, we've got domestic issues right now that we need their full attention on, and they're not doing it. Is my opinion.
Give me an example. Give me one of those domestic issues that you think that we should be focused on.
Right now, there's a shortage in the there's parents scrambling store to store to look for baby formula right now. Then you got our vehicles. We got a shortage on vehicles. The gas prices. Our gas prices are freaking ridiculous. Right now in New York State, I live in upstate New York. It's $6.39 a gallon for diesel and $4.59 for a regular gallon.
Well, let me ask you this in regards to the baby formula shortage, and I heard that on the nightly news this evening. If we didn't help the Ukrainians out, do you think that would put more baby formula on the shelves?
I honestly don't know. Probably not. Just because our supply chain is like shitty right now. I'm sorry, crappy right now.
Whatever you want to say, whatever you want to say.
But I just think we have more pertinent issues right now facing our country than, like I said, we should help Ukraine, absolutely. But we just sent them what 30 billion before, and now we're going to send them another 40 billion.
Yeah, I see Don is in the comments saying something very similar to you. He said the same thing. I'm all for helping Ukraine, but another 40 billion. Let me ask you this question though. Fredsky
Sure.
347. Fredsky in 347. This is in regards to what you just said in the comments. Said weakening Russia is actually worth the money. What do you think about that?
I can agree with that. I can agree with that, but I don't think no amount of money is going to stop Putin. Putin's gonna do what he wants to do, and I think he's a psycho enough to push that button. I really do.
Well, if we stop helping the Ukrainians and he conquers Ukraine, because without us helping him, I think everybody around the world believes that the only way they're surviving is because of the United States is helping them. So if we stop helping the Ukrainians and Putin overruns the Ukrainians, do you think he will stop with Ukraine?
Oh no, I think he's gonna go. I think he's gonna go further than Ukraine, because Vladimir Putin, my opinion, is he wants to restore the USSR, and I think he's gonna go beyond Ukraine, and I wish Joe Biden didn't open his mouth and say, well, if he attacks one of our NATO countries, that's when we'll get involved. I guarantee you, Putin is gonna put him to that test. And I really think he's going to be one of our NATO countries.
I will respond to you by saying this: if what you're saying is correct, that Putin, if he defeats the Ukraine, will continue on past the Ukraine and possibly in the NATO nations, then I would state that you're making a strong point in regards to we should definitely be supporting the Ukrainians as much as possible, and you would also be validating the other gentleman's point that's saying weakening Russia is worth the money. I mean, I understand there's a shortage of baby formula, and we're paying a little bit more at the pump, but what you're talking about is an attempt to reestablish the Soviet Union at the cost of millions of lives.
Sure. No, I agree with that statement. I do.
Okay.
I mean, it's fair. That's a fair statement. But it's just, it's just irritating that we got a lot of stuff going on here, and I guess we can walk and chew gum at the same time. But hopefully, we can get some domestic policy.
What I would say, to some degree, and I don't want to be too sarcastic or light with it, but I would look at our price at the pump, the difficulty in obtaining baby's formula, and some of the things you're talking about, and you're saying we have a lot of stuff going on here, and then I see Zelensky standing on top of a mass grave saying we got a lot of stuff going on here too. We can really use that money. You're looking for baby formula. We're looking for our family members. So
sure.
So I guess you almost want to kind of prioritize it, because even though Zelensky and in Ukraine are not necessarily allies or members of NATO, even by your own admission, some of those people are probably next. So it might be a good idea to stop him while he's in the Ukraine before his citizens in Poland that are talking about mass graves, or Romania, some of the NATO countries. I mean, even folks who are not in favor of helping the Ukrainians, for the most part, agree with you. No, he's not going to stop at Ukraine. So you can't ignore what's happening.
I don't think he's going to. I honestly don't. I think he's going to keep going as far as he can go. because he started it, and I think he's going to finish it. That's my opinion. So,
well, based on your own statements, in my opinion, you're making a good point of why we should keep helping them out. I mean, because you're talking about, I agree with the Bailey formula and I agree with the price of fuel, but we're talking about what could easily be 10 million lives or more. We're not talking about paying money at the pump. We're talking about dying.
And I think the NATO countries surrounding them should be helping just as much as we are, but I'm not sure what other countries are actually helping them. So,
Germany has sent equipment. Well, when you say you're not sure what other countries helping them, keep in mind there's been several million Ukrainians that have been displaced because of this war and are now refugees living in NATO states. So even though they may not be helping them financially or helping them with weapons, we're not taking all of those Ukrainian refugees in. Our allies are. Poland is taking in like 2 million of them. So they're helping. They're just doing it in a different way.
Sure. No, and I agree with your statement. It's just I don't know. I think we just sent them 30 billion and we're sending them another 40. And I get it. We should just, stop Putin at all costs. But I don't know. It's just I'm irritated at what's going on right now with everything across the world.
Well, there is when a country decides to just commit war crimes at random, there is no way to deal with this that's going to make you feel good. I mean, there's gonna have to be sacrifices and money given and lives lost to fix this. There's no other way. There's no neat way to do this. And I'm saying this knowing that America has only taken in a handful of Ukrainian refugees. You think baby formula and gas prices are hurting us? Imagine taking in 2 million refugees at once. They would essentially be changing. They would essentially be changing the nature of Poland as a country. You got so many Ukrainians in there that would have to be starting to change the way that country operates, changing their language, interfering with their customs, and all of that.
Well, I can honestly say you kind of your point is kind of putting me at ease a little bit right now because that's how frustrated I am.
Okay, all right, I can live with that. And like I said, I know the Ukrainians are not allies. I'm just simply saying that based on what you said, and I believe and agree with you that they're not going to stop at the Ukrainians. We have to look at the bigger picture and realize you can sacrifice a little bit now, or you can let Russia blow up and find yourself sacrifice. You want to go back to hiding under desk and watching movies like The Day After again, or you want to pay a few bucks at the pump?
Sure, and I totally agree. And as a veteran too, I can tell you right now, I didn't support the Iraq war either. So I think I had a lot of my brothers and sisters die over nothing. That's my opinion on that. So,
and let's hope that does not happen here in this country. Here's a funny comment. State Child 100 said that's what he's here for. He's here all week. He's saying that in response to you saying that I've kind of changed your mind a little bit. I love it. I don't get that kind of a compliment very much, but I definitely appreciate that in the comments. But I'll let you go ahead and wrap it up because I got somebody else trying to get in after you. But go ahead, I'll give you the last word.
I appreciate talking to you. I always like listening to your show, even though I lean right. But you have brought me in the center on a couple of topics, so I do really appreciate that. See, here's the problem: we have no more civil discourse in this country, and and I hope you grow this show and get people on both sides to actually come to common ground. And I really appreciate you, bud.
I really appreciate that as well. And I see a few folks follow just on that spiel you gave, which is awesome. And by the way, folks, feel free to follow the channel. I do appreciate all that. It helps me out immensely. Doesn't cost you anything to do when you're sending likes and all that. So definitely appreciate that. But Devil Dog for life. Thanks for the service. Come on back anytime, man. I'm glad to hear that you listen.
Yes, sir. You have a good day.
Absolutely, you too. Let me look. That was a really good call. Let me look in the comments here.
May be destroyed if the war does not stop soon. That certainly could happen. But I will say this from a United States standpoint, and it's going to sound selfish. It's going to sound, not necessarily pro-Ukrainian, but I hate to say it, but it's better them than us. They kind of are the stopgap, because even if the Ukrainians get destroyed, they're really hurting the might of Russia in the process. Russia is growing weaker by fighting with the Ukrainians. Yeah, they'll ultimately win, but how many tanks, how many soldiers are they missing after fighting Ukraine? So after whatever happens with the Ukrainians, they're not going to be in position to launch another offense for some years. They got to recuperate from that. The Ukrainians have put them through a hell of a battle, and it's not over with yet. So, like I said, it sounds selfish. It sounds kind of cruel to some degree, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to stay alive, and I will say better them than us. So if we expect Russia to expand and continue trying this shit elsewhere, then you need to send the Ukrainians as much as you can, because folks like Devil Dog, who was on here, folks like that you can actually identify what are going to get sent to these zones if we let Ukraine get ran over. Next it's going to be us having to fight them. So we got to do what we got to do, folks. I understand we don't want to pay money for fuel and all of that shit. We don't want to have shortages and all of that. We want inflation back the way it is. But when you're talking about a major world conflict on the horizon, expect sacrifices that's going to be a lot greater than just baby formula. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next. This is another frequent viewer. I love hearing from you guys. This is real.
You have a talent with people. You have a talent with people, sir. Respect. Thank you, Mace 2054. Welcome to the program. I appreciate that comment. Real Trucker Jeff, what's up?
Handsome Liver, how you doing? Hey, listen, where I am in Florida right now, my connection, it seems like it's not being that cooperative with me, so I might lose you. But one thing I wanted to follow up on what Devil Dog was saying. I totally agree with that guy. I appreciate the way that you are sort of able to bridge the gap and have a cool head about you. Even when people are firing at you, I like how you handle people. And like, you're on the left, I'm on the right, but we can still have a simple conversation. We need more people that are able to do that. So I hope you do build your channel and brand. I hope you have a lot of good things that come from it. Because even just in a small little group, you see that people can we can get along. You know what I mean? So I think that's important. But
well, damn, you guys are. Go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt. Go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt.
Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to say, I hope the best for you, and I think you're doing a great job. Now,
absolutely.
It looks like you're. Go ahead.
I'll just let me just. What I'm trying to say is this. You guys are being so kind. You're going to make a black man blush, and I don't even know if that's fucking possible. But I appreciate I like the fact you guys are here. Like I said, I love the back and forth and all of that, and I like hearing other folks' points and things like that. So, wow, I didn't expect this tonight. Thank you guys all. But if you're still there, because you are breaking up, but can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you. Good. Yeah. Okay. So. I actually wanted to talk to you about the Cyber Ninjas thing because, I know you want to see the 2,000 mules and stuff like that. And I wanted to, everybody's like, oh, now the MAGA is on to something different. But there are things about Cyber Ninjas that people just don't understand because they don't understand math. But now you're talking about Ukraine. Okay. Ukraine. I have friends. Okay.
Let me hear what you got to say about the Cyber Ninjas. I want to hear that. I mean, we can go back to Ukraine, but let me hear what you got to say on that.
All right. The thing that people don't seem to understand now, with the Cyber Ninjas report, they're looking at the top line number, right? Like Biden got 200 or 300 extra votes, right? And I have part of the Cyber Ninjas report that I'm looking at right now. So the Cyber Ninjas, the differences were, Trump got 261 less and Biden got 99 more, whatever. That's the top line number, right? But then when you go down, and I'm looking, if you go to Arizona Senate, you find the report, it's broken up into 5 different pieces. I downloaded the third piece. It's got charts in it. And there's a chart on page 5. Okay. So you have to look at what Cyber Ninjas included in their total. And I'll give you an example. One of the items they have is mail-in ballots voted from a prior address. So these are people that moved, right? And there are over 23,000 of those. Okay, so if the people move, they can't vote from their old address, right? So that's 23,000 votes. That would reduce that total by 23,000, right?
Okay.
So you have all these categories. So the numbers are completely. So the top line number that is one data point, but there are a bunch of other data points below that, like more ballots returned by voter than received. Right. So
okay,
so
let me interrupt you real quick, because Crazy Mike always says some wild shit. This is, I don't even know what he said. I say shoot all the. I heard everything you said. Let me make that clear to you. It's off topic, but I just had to bring it up because he's hurting right wingers all over. I say shoot all the illegals in the Rio Grande while crossing. What the hell are we supposed to do with that? What? I mean, you're crossing into America illegally. You want to just pull out a rifle and shoot them. Anyway, go ahead. Continue. Okay, so you're saying the mail-in voters.
Let's not shoot these people. Most of them are probably families and are in a difficult situation. We need to do something down there, but shooting them is not.
No.
That's not going to be good for anybody. So what I'm saying on this chart, there are a bunch of data points here. I gave you two of them. Voters that potentially voted in multiple counties. All right, so people voted multiple times. That's 5,295 votes, right? So those are
okay.
So all of these things would completely drastically change the actual number of people that voted, and that's all in the Cyber Ninjas report.
Here's my rebuttal to this, and I use this rebuttal every single time when I hear this stuff. Even if what you're saying is 100% true, we did not use the Cyber Ninjas in all of these other states. How many other states had voting in that same manner that we just assumed because Trump won, it was legitimate? Everything you're talking about that happened in Arizona could have potentially happened in all the other states. They haven't been investigated. We don't know.
Right, that's the problem. It hasn't been investigated, and now I've got an echo. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to say when I say it hasn't been investigated is that I think there is a legitimate case to be made that there was some maybe cheating or impropriety in regards to the election. The problem is we can't prove it was all Democrats.
Tim, I'm gonna have to jump out. I'm getting all kinds of echo. I gotta jump out.
Okay, all right, okay, fair enough. The problem, what I was going to say to him is the problem. We can prove, or I'm going to be willing to say or believe that in a country this size, there's probably been some impropriety in the elections. There's probably been everything from dead people voting to illegals voting to ballot stuff and whatever you want to believe that certainly could have happened in a country this size. What I always say I have a problem with is the notion that only liberals did it. It only happened in those states that Trump suggested: Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia. No, you're going to tell me that this couldn't have happened in Texas at all? So that's where folks lose me, is that you can bring up any type of fraud you want to bring up. You didn't do a complete investigation. There's too many states that did not get investigated that could change the outcome of everything. And that includes down ballot races. That includes down ballot races as well, because like I've said before, the Republicans outperformed the polling and the expectations on election day. It's just Trump lost. But a lot of senators and Congress people and folks in the lower ballots did better than they were expected. If the election was not held properly, a lot of them shouldn't be on the job, right? That would probably mean that maybe Biden has a bigger Senate majority. Maybe Congress would be further to the left. But we only assume, here's what we're assuming. All of the cheating was done by liberals, and all of it targeted Trump, even though all of these other people are on the ballots. I don't think there's any way to make that make sense, because when you go and cast a ballot, you're voting for the president, you're voting for the vice president, you're usually voting for senators, Congress, judges, you may be voting for bills and legislation that's going to get passed. You're voting for a whole lot of other stuff on there. And we're literally trying to say that people voted for all of this shit, but the only cheating was towards Trump. You realize the type of surgical laser precision strike that would have to be?
And it just doesn't hold up. And that's why I believe that the Supreme Court, even though they were appointed by Trump, were savvy enough to see that if we allow him to come in here and present a case, the counter presentations for folks like myself, I can come up with 1,000 questions to ask based on that belief. If you think the election is cheated, if you think the election wasn't fair, well, let me go holler at this Republican senator that just won and tell him he needs to resign. So I think that the justices realize that this is going to open up a can of worms so large that Trump is just focused on getting reelected. He ain't thought about all this shit either. And they realized it. And based on the amount of questions I could come up with, that case would have went on long past Biden serving a term in office anyway. So that's the way I look at it. It would have really tore this country apart. Paper chasing. 5, 8, 9.
I think I saw you. I will come back to you afterwards. But paper chasing, what's up this evening?
What's going on, big dog?
Hey, you the man. You the man. Sounding good tonight. What's on your mind?
No, man, I was just chilling, laid back, just enjoying the show. I wanted to join in. A couple guests ago, the guy was talking about when he brought up the Civil War and all that, and he said he understood,
Okay.
that we got 400 years of free labor, and he understood that that's not a good thing. But then when you a lot of people, contested that and agreed, which rightfully so. But
Okay.
when you ask them, yeah, okay, with that being said, so do you think that reparations should be pursued upon? It's a lot of pushback and a lot of deflect, and there's a huge argument, which is counterintuitive to what they just said. You know what I mean? So, like,
Well, I think the problem with reparations is no doubt people were wronged. Absolutely. And no, and I'm kind of on both sides of the issue because no doubt people were wronged during that time period. However, they're all deceased. And the perpetrators are all deceased. I mean, no matter how bad your grandfather, your great grandfather was, it's not you. So the issue becomes, why should I have to give the victim of a great grand, okay, for instance, let's say someone had to look out for me. I know who my great grandmother was, so my great great grandmother would probably be in the mix of this shit. My great great grandmother, how do I look making somebody's great 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 grandson pay for something that my great 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 grandfather received and then have to get the money to me? There's a lot of entanglements there that I could understand why somebody would say that in 2022 is it's kind of unfair. I mean, if you're a Caucasian that's struggling, you didn't have nothing to do with that. The government did it. Now, if you want to suggest that it should come from taxpayers, I mean, there may be something to say there, but I understand the folks who are on the other side of it because a lot of this is going to be addressed to people that had nothing to do with what took place.
yeah, my argument was more or less from the government. You know what I mean? That was definitely, I wasn't talking about personally. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying?
Oh,
Because
the only people you got a loud one back there. The only thing I can think of were people.
hold on one second.
Can you hear me? Because I hear your dog is really talking back there. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm trying to get her
Okay.
now to go in the house. Give me 1
All
second.
right.
Coco, come on.
That sounds like a big ass dog you got in the crib. That ain't no little Chihuahua.
Nah, she's a little English bulldog. I mean,
Oh,
she's
okay. All right.
a little thick, little stubborn, little bully, but she's sweet.
Okay. Well, in regards to your comment about reparations, I guess if that was going to be implemented, the best thing I could I got the poster from yesterday. The best thing I could say, because during that era, things that they held back from us would be education, the right to own a business, the property. So as opposed to a hand up, or better yet, a handout, I would say maybe if you were going to entertain reparations, I would say as opposed to a handout, a hand up. I don't want to see folks getting money and going out and buying Jordans or a new pair of rims for their car. I would say, okay, look, we're going to try to make do to some degree in the areas you were held back, and that is property ownership, being educated, and opening up a business. So if an African American wanted to open up a business, maybe you would give them a discount on property taxes, maybe hold back on charging them permit fees and things like that. Same thing with the education, which to some degree they actually have done. Being African American can get you all sorts of grants and things like that in regards to getting an education. And maybe they could do something similar, like with property ownership, similar to the GI Bill or something like that. We'll make it so that you can get your first home, and we'll give you some serious discounts on that. I think if they were going to do reparations, that would be the areas I would target. But as far as handing out a blank check, no, I wouldn't be a fan of that. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, of course, it would have to be structured. You know what I mean? It would have to be structured in a way. Like I'm not negating that everybody, get a $500,000 check to go do whatever they please. I'm
Okay. All right.
100%
What do you?
agreeing with you.
Let me ask you. This is a comment in the. This is from a comment, and I appreciate that. Trump trains. You said you agree with that. Wow, that's surprise. I appreciate that, man. One of the comments from Just Silly #7 says no one is held back currently. What do you think about it? He suggested that in America in 2022, nobody's being held back at all. Did I lose you?
No, I'm just pondering on that for one quick second.
Nobody is being held back. There's nothing stopping or interfering with your success in 2022. That's the comment he's making. Ponder that. And let me look in the comments. I'm going to see if anybody else. Okay, Jubilant 3237 says, I'm black and I agree with that. Ace is high 84 says, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I would have to disagree because at the end of the day, the low poverty communities are always going to suffer. You know what I'm saying?
But that could be
And
any color. That could
well, I'm
be
not right. That's what I'm saying. I'm not disputing
okay.
that. So at the end of the day, some people are good. That is just how society works.
Okay. I will say this in regards to the idea that nobody is held back. I'm about 85 to 90% in agreement with that. I will say this. If you want to succeed in America, there's nothing stopping you. However, there are minefields and pitfalls out there that if you step in one of those minefields, it's going to blow your leg off a lot more than it might blow somebody else's leg off. The explosion is going to hurt you more than others, particularly with the criminal justice system. If you're straight and narrow like myself, I've never had any problem with the law. So I was able to be somewhat successful. Like what he said, nothing stopped me from being successful. However, if I had made a mistake and stepped in one of those mines, that mine would have blew up potentially on me a little bit more than somebody else. So I will say that nothing's holding you back as long as you maintain a straight and narrow. But for mistakes, for those who make mistakes, some folks, those mistakes are forgiven a little bit easier than others. Does that mean you can't be successful? No. But and that's not just coming from me. Various police departments, even right-wing politicians have stated just looking at the war on drugs, for instance, if you made a mistake and got caught up in the war on drugs issues, there was no denying that they treated folks differently. You look at Robert Downey Jr. or Paris Hilton, they got caught with a lot of shit on them. And they never did a day in jail. Never did a day. And you got dudes who have been caught with a couple of rocks on them, and their whole life is jacked up. So
look, I'm living testament to that, my sir. To me, it's unsettling and it's very hypocritical, because yes, I was young and dumb, and I smoked and sold a little bit of weed to my friends. You know what I'm saying? It was technically, yes, it was against the law. But to sit back and now, 12, 15 years later, to ride down the same neighborhood and to see, medical marijuana dispensaries up for business.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's
oh man,
very unsettling and it's very disturbing because it's like, okay, the last 15 years I've literally been jumping through hoops and my life has been twisted and turned upside down because I've been, under the thumb of the DOJ and the criminal system over, literally the same, for them to turn around and do the same thing 15 years later is a smack in the face. It's just,
You make a really good point. Because I've never had any trouble with the law, I never thought of that. But somebody like yourself that may have faced a felony charge for distribution of marijuana, to drive now after being through all of that and see marijuana dispensaries everywhere, it has to be a huge WTF moment. I mean, like, seriously, you took a large portion of my life away, and now this dude can open up a shop and sell his stuff with no problem. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I'm assuming if I got some libertarians out there, they probably agree with me. Now that marijuana is essentially becoming legal, anyone that still has any kind of paperwork on them for a marijuana charge, it should be removed. It should just totally. Now, obviously, if you committed other crimes after being involved in it, that's something different. But if any marijuana charges that are on your record, now that that's becoming legal, that should just be expunged and taken off of them.
I wholeheartedly agree. That's why, like, when Obama's policy act with the federal, he tried to do a little bit of that, you know what I mean? He appealed and repealed people's convictions. It was a small percentage, but it was a start, you know what I'm saying? And it never really got followed up on after
the
that.
problem the problem with it is, and I talk to right wingers. I make no qualms about my preferred audience is right, MAGA. And anytime you start talking about being a little bit softer on crime, that is not popular with the right. So if you got a politician in there like Obama or Bernie Sanders is another that would make Bernie Sanders would have Snoop Dogg on every corner. But if you get somebody like that, the right is not going to be a fan of that, because they're going to be able to find somebody that, okay, you let this guy out making marijuana legal, and he don't went out and killed a bunch of people because he also had other crimes. And they would just not be a fan of, which is why you don't hear a lot of right wingers in the political theater, at least, talking about legalizing marijuana. They just aren't not necessarily big fans of that. But I do believe that is something that will happen in this country eventually, because more and more it's getting close to the majority. You just got to get the Republicans on board. If it was liberals are totally in favor of legalizing marijuana. The Republican Party, particularly those in the elderly category, they're not. So it's going to take a little time, but I do believe we're getting there.
Okay, no doubt.
But for folks like you, unfortunately, it's not going to happen soon enough.
Facts. Right.
So sorry to hear that, man. Well, look, I'm glad to hear you come through. I want to move it along. I got a couple other ones in here, but man,
no doubt.
I appreciate you coming through, man.
Nah, man, appreciate it. I'm really liking this page, so I hit you with a follow, and anytime I see you on, I'll swing through.
That is good shit. Thank you a lot. Have a good evening, man.
You as well.
All right.
Let's see what else in here. Jeff, we talk all the time. Real Trucker Jeff, another one of my right leaners, definitely. Welcome to the program. If he can get him back through
trouble earlier. What would rules be for it, like alcohol? Well, let me say this just silly in regards to marijuana. Hang on, Jeff. In regards to your comment about like alcohol, because obviously you don't want people driving that are spaced out. You don't want Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg driving down the street together. So, I mean, I get that. There's going to be the same thing for being intoxicated. But I don't like what we're doing because, and I know I'm going to get unpopular on this, but this is the same argument I said about abortion, is that anytime you criminalize something, you create a horrible black market. I don't know what the black market is going to be in terms of legalizing or criminalizing abortion. I don't know what the black market is going to be, but we know there's going to be one. We know there's going to be somebody that's going to get incarcerated because of that. We know there's going to be some new felonies that are going to pop up and all of that. And that's what has happened, obviously, with marijuana. Once we made it illegal, you created a huge black market. And I mean, for instance, you guys talk about Chicago all the time, all of the killings in Chicago. A lot of that shit is drug related. A lot of that shit is because we got so tough on drugs and made drugs a black market. If you legalize marijuana, my guess is you probably have a lot less killings in regards to selling marijuana because now, like, okay, I lived on the south side of Chicago, and I do see you, Jeff. Just want to make this last point. I lived on the south side of Chicago. I would see in an all black neighborhood, 99% black, I would see white folks coming in my neighborhood to buy marijuana or crack or whatever the hell they was buying from drug dealers. If that shit was legal, they wouldn't be risking their lives to come in the hood to either get pulled over by police and get a felony or get robbed by black folks in the hood. They would buy it in their neighborhood where it was legal, and we would actually have a lot less deaths. Now, I understand, well, if you legalize, you're going to have overdoses. They're overdosing anyway. Just like with the gun debate. If you ban guns, people will always still be able to find a gun. If you ban drugs, people will still get high. We've had a war on drugs for 30 years. Who the fuck is having a hard time getting high? Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, I'm back. Yeah, you know, that's another good. You always bring up these good topics, but I really wanted to chime in on the Ukraine deal, mostly because when I was in China, when I lived there, there was a group of Ukrainians that lived in the city that I lived in, right? They were from Western Ukraine though. So they were Russian. I don't know if you know how that happened in Ukraine. You know that the western side of Ukraine is Russian.
Well, I know that Crimea got taken over in 2014, so I'm assuming that made that worse. But I do know they were part of the Soviet Union. So I do know that there are Russian citizens or Russian-speaking folks in the Ukraine, and they actually are in favor of what Putin is doing right now. But Putin has already taken some of the Ukraine from 2014 when he annexed Crimea. But go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the issue. They have always had these issues, and the reason that they're in the western part is because Stalin starved all the Ukrainians to death. He starved them off their farms, and then he put Russians in there. So there are a lot of Russians in Western Ukraine. Yeah, it's not Voldemort. I forget there's the name for it, but whatever. Yeah, they starved millions and millions of Ukrainians to death and then replaced them with Russians. It's a very kind of communist thing to do. It's what you see, I think, in Shanghai. That's what Xi is probably doing in Shanghai right now. He's locking his people down, starving them to death because they're a little bit too independent for mainland China. So he's probably trying to eliminate that independent streak out of Shanghai, and he's just going to move Han Chinese in there and replace them. That's a very communist thing to do.
Putin is attempting to starve them in Ukraine now. I mean, they have food storage depots, and they've been getting hit with missiles and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, he's doing it now. He's doing it right now.
Absolutely. So, my issue with that is a neighborhood problem. I lived in China during the Obama administration mostly. So they were my Ukrainian friends were complaining about basically civil war, that they were having issues with Eastern Ukraine back then. They were fighting back then. So one thing what the media is telling us is happening, we don't know that, because the Ukrainians they hate each other. The ethnic Russians and the ethnic Ukrainians, they always have had issues. They've had issues since World War II, for one. The other thing, and this is like an Orwellian moment, because prior to this situation, the people in the West, places like Mariupol, is a stronghold for people that are descendants. Their ideology is descended from the guy with the little mustache, right? There are direct connections to that German history into Eastern Ukraine. Prior to this war, we were comparing the people in Eastern Ukraine to ISIS. We're saying, well, these are domestic terrorists. They're no different than ISIS. Now all of a sudden we have to support them. We have to send them tens of billions of dollars. But I'm telling you, maybe a year or two before this broke off, you could read in like Newsweek about how horrible these people were. They're like a cult. It's like a cult. They're fascists. They're Nazis. So we're helping people that they're not good. They're not good people. A lot of them, right? That we're helping.
Let me respond by saying this. And I had a Ukrainian on the program the week before last, and he actually was in Ukraine at the time, and I had him and one of the citizens or females from Moldova was arguing back and forth because she was in favor of what Putin was doing. She was suggesting that Putin is acting in self-defense. She was from a old Soviet country, and these two were going back and forth. I'll say this: even if what you're saying about the Ukraine being corrupt and all of that country, the problem is you're getting a lot of information from Russia. So even with the Ukrainians not necessarily being able to be trustworthy, the adversary is equally as bad. Russia is telling its people that they were going over there as liberators and the Ukrainians are Nazis and they'll welcome. That stuff is not true either. So we may look at the Ukraine and say what we're hearing on the media from the Ukraine is not necessarily true, and they may not be telling us the correct story. Could be true. But we know what's coming from Russia is not the correct story either. So it's really like, which liar are you going to side with?
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing, trying to pick the correct liar. But the other problem that I see though is the Ukraine has had issues with Western countries going in.
Yeah. Did I lose you?
Like I said, I'm way down in Florida, and having my connection is. Oh man. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to drop him. Your connection is real bad. Your connection is really bad. Timoteo, Bree, I got you, but Timoteo, I do see you in there. Okay, Bree, 5, 3, 1, 0. What is going on? What's up?
Hey, what's going on? It's Brian.
Bri. Okay, the I is strong, the strong guy. What's going on with you this evening?
Hey, I'm just saying, look at what's going on in Ukraine right now. Why don't they care about what's going on in Ethiopia? They've been fighting wars in Ethiopia for years.
Well, I got a few answers. Okay, first answer is obviously the color of their skin. There's no denying that. The color, just like with Syria, the first answer is the color of skin. Second answer is the expansion of what's going on in Ethiopia is of no threat or concern to America. The expansion of what's going on in Eastern Europe, they're right next door to Article 5 countries. You know, they're right next door to NATO countries. So the issue in Russia is a major concern because it doesn't take but even a stray bomb, and all of a sudden you got a NATO country that's hit. The third reason, and the third answer is financial. There's no money to be made by going into Ethiopia. I know it's immoral, but I'm just saying there's no money to be made by dealing with what's going on in Ethiopia. There is money. I mean, obviously the Russian pipeline, the Russian oil that's being going. There's a lot of money involved in what's going on in Eastern Europe. So race, skin color, and the potential for a third world war is why we care more about Ukraine and Ethiopia. But go ahead.
All right. So then why do we ignore the fact that there's Nazi regimes in Ukraine that are funded by CIA?
Well, if that's the case, first of all, they don't want to admit it. That would be the first thing. The second thing is there are Nazis in every country. It's just like Black Lives Matter or just like Antifa or anything else. Anybody can become a Nazi. It's not like you got to go and take some kind of test or you become some kind of special. Anybody that professes hatred to everybody else and love for the guy with the small mustache, what Jeff was saying, anybody can be that. You can't go around attacking nations because they got some white supremacists in there. I mean, every nation has those people. We have those people over here.
Well, that's true. But then,
would you want some Russians to launch a war with America because they sat through a screening of American History X? I mean, everybody has Nazis.
But you're missing the fact that in Dumb Boss, you can look this up. You can Google it. Look at the Alley of Angels. Ukrainians have been killing Ukrainians that support Russians in the droves. Why do you think why do you think all these politicians have been going to Kiev and they're just partying it up? It's like it's not even a war.
Okay, well, I'm not knowledgeable about that, but let's say I'm not going to dispute what you're saying. Let's say what you're saying is correct. When we went into Iraq, even though I think it was a bullshit war, when we went into Iraq, supposedly because he was killing his own people, similar to what you're saying about the Ukraine, we performed precision strikes. We didn't go in there deliberately bombing schools and apartment complexes. We had specific tactical targets. Yeah, there were mistakes. There was collateral damage, but that was not the aim, which is why you didn't have millions of Iraqi refugees fleeing all over the place. What they're doing in the Ukraine, even if what you're saying is 100% true, it is so sloppy that the solution is actually worse than the problem. They're going to make it so that the country of Ukraine looks like the surface of Mars. It's going to be uninhabitable. So it's almost like saying, I got a damn pesky fly in my house and I want to get this fly out so I can get some sleep. And you go and grab a 12 gauge and keep shooting at it. The solution is worse than the problem.
So he took out the biolabs. He hasn't encroached on Kiev. He hasn't stopped Ukrainians from being free Ukrainians. All he did was get rid of the biolabs.
You think that the Ukrainians are just as free as they were before Russia invaded?
Yeah. I mean, look at Kiev. If Nancy Pelosi can go walking around and Justin Trudeau can go walking around, then it doesn't look like much of a war zone to me.
Okay, first of all, let me be clear to you. The only reason you can walk around the streets of Kiev is because they fought to keep the Russians from taking it over. The Russians were clearly looking to take over Kiev. They're not there because they got their ass kicked, not because they never decided to attack. And keep in mind, what about Mariupol? There are more cities in the Ukraine than just Kiev. You're just talking about the capital city. Kiev, the Ukraine is a big ass country. There are plenty of cities in that country that have been decimated. The idea that you believe that the Ukrainians are no less free now than they were before Russia invaded, then what is Russia doing? What is the purpose of even being there if everybody is free to move around? And I don't understand, what is the goal in your opinion?
Protecting their borders.
Okay. I don't think even the citizens.
You're going to put 26 biolabs, which the U.S. denied, but then had to turn around after some of them were blown up and say, well, yes, actually, we actually had biolabs there. Okay, why would they lie about that?
We have biolabs. Russia has biolabs. I don't understand why are we going gung-ho on Ukraine if they got biolabs. You don't think Russia has biolabs?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
So what is the problem with Ukraine?
Just like the Cuban Missile Crisis, we wouldn't let Russia put missiles right off the border of the U.S. and Cuba. Why would we expect Russians to let U.S. put biolabs right on their borders?
Okay, I'm fine with the notion of Russia being angry about having a country that's potentially trying to be a member of NATO right on this border. Russia has some legitimate reasons to be at odds with the Ukraine, but the way they're handling it is where I have a problem with. They're not in what you're talking about, whereas the citizens of Ukraine are no less free than they were before Putin. I don't understand where you're getting that from. You realize how many women have been brutalized and raped, and kids, and I mean how many mass graves they found? No less free. You really believe that their lives they are no less free than they were before Putin invaded? You really honestly believe that?
So I work with a guy who's from Ukraine. His whole family's from Ukraine. He said the Azov brigades that are over there have been killing Ukrainians left, right, and sideways. If you look up Donbass in the Alley of Angels, it's where all the kids have been killed by Ukrainians.
So you don't think Russia's doing anything wrong, essentially, then, huh?
I think they are doing wrong. I don't think it's right, and I don't think there should be a war anywhere.
But you don't believe they're interfering with the freedom of Ukrainians?
No.
I think I would just say this, and like I said, I always say, folks, this is a no snowflake zone. I'm for free speech. I let folks get their point across. But I think you and I, Bright, we're so far apart on this that it's like I'm trying to sell you a brand new Escalade and you're only offering me $500. I don't think there's no negotiating we could possibly do on this. We're that far apart. But I'll let you get the last word and wrap it up. I'm gonna move on because I don't think there's any light between where we're so far apart. We're on different universes on this. But I'll let you conclude with the last word. Go ahead.
All right. When Zelensky came into power, what did they do? They shut down all the networks in Ukraine and they opened up 3 new news networks, all run by the government. He's nothing but a
Okay.
puppet.
Okay, then based on what you're saying about the Ukraine, what do you think about Russia banning words like war, banning words like invasion, shutting down Facebook, shutting down YouTube, shutting down TikTok in Russia, not in Ukraine, in Russia? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's wrong. That's against. What do you think about the disinformation congressional board that Joe Biden's doing in America?
I'm
That's going
not
to
here to
shut down
defend
free
Biden.
speech.
Yeah, I'm not here to defend Biden. That's a whole different topic. But I'm just simply saying, when it comes to the Ukrainian-Russian war, just like I told Jeff on the last call, it boils down to which lying country are you willing to believe the most. And I'm going to go with the Ukraine simply because I'm going to go with the Ukraine simply because they're giving us access to their country. They're allowing us to walk around and see stuff, whereas Russia has literally shut an iron curtain. You don't have access to it. So I'm gonna go with the country that's giving us access.
Well, yes and no. Who's not giving access? Is it Russia or is it America putting sanctions on Russia and shutting down any media coming out of there because they don't want to hear what Russians have to say?
America did not shut down TikTok in Russia. America didn't shut off Facebook and YouTube. Russia did that to its own citizens.
Not true. But aren't they doing the same thing with free speaking people here in America and Canada?
Okay, I mean you're mixing. Well, you're suggesting that America has shut down free speech the same way or just as bad as Russia?
No, but look at Canada. Look at what they did with the truckers up there. They called them he did the Emergency Act, which has never been enacted in Canada ever, for
Okay,
a base
let
basically
me stop you. Let me interrupt and just say this. You're covering the whole globe in one conversation. Now I understand what you're saying about Canada, but now you're throwing in other countries. Canada has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. So you're moving around the globe. You're playing a game of Carmen San Diego with me right now. I'm talking about the Ukrainians in Russia, and you're throwing in Canada. But all I can say is this: we have access to Ukraine. We do not have access to Russia. So if you got two countries that might somewhat be dishonest, I'm going to go with the side that's at least giving us access to their country.
it's not deflecting. What it is it's showing that what 195, 196 countries or what with the New World Order or the WHO, the WHO, and yeah, you've got Justin Trudeau and his second in command in the same country in a war zone at the same time. That'd be like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris going to Ukraine at the exact same time during a war.
Well, they are allies. You don't think Winston Churchill and FDR or whoever was leading the United States, well, FDR was in charge of this. You don't think FDR and Winston Churchill went to Europe at the same time? The Yalta Conference, for instance. That's what happens. Allies travel together. If
But
Nancy Pelosi or Biden or Jill Biden traveled with Trudeau, that's what allies do.
no, I'm talking about the first in command, the second in command, and Nancy Pelosi being the third command of the U.S. They wouldn't go into an active war zone. That's kind of foolish to do, don't you think?
I do think that's kind of foolish to do. I made a video about that. I did wonder why would the entire nation of Ukraine subject to being bombed. I know you're saying that Kyiv is not necessarily being hurt that bad. But at any given time, bombs can land in Kyiv. And with Nancy Pelosi, Justin Trudeau, what is the guy's name? Boris Johnson of the UK, I believe Macron of France, they've all been there. And yeah, it does seem quite perilous to walk down the streets of a country that's being, currently bombarded. If we were bombing Baghdad, which we used to do, and all of a sudden we heard that Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un was walking down the streets with Saddam Hussein, we would tell Kim Jong-un, this is bogus for you to be in this country knowing that we had war with these people, because we could make a mistake and hit you. So I do see some issues with that, but I think where you lost me at is the idea that the Ukrainians' freedom is not being interrupted. I don't buy that at all.
Well, maybe they are, and you probably are right there. But also, why are all those kids working in the Ukraine? You got Paul Pelosi, you got Hunter Biden, you got John Kerry's kid. You got a lot of kids working over in the Ukraine.
Hunter Biden is not a kid.
Well, they're kids.
Okay.
They're kids.
Well, I could easily rebut and ask you why did Trump have so many kids working in the White House? I mean, we could go back and forth with that all day.
They were working within our country, not foreign countries.
Okay, but they were not welcomed by the FBI. Some of Trump's kids didn't even pass the security clearance.
Why did they say Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation? Now that's coming out that it's true.
Okay, look, let me move on. You got to come back. We obviously got a hell of a lot more to cover, but we're getting too broad.
I really want to see that laptop.
Okay. Hey, listen, man. We talk often in the comments. Come on back through anytime, man. Let me move it on. No,
right on me. Good talking to you.
Talking to you two. Okay, I'm gonna bring you two on at the same time because you guys seen them on the TV.
What was that again? Timoteo. Fuck Biden.
You're killing me.
Okay, gentlemen. What is it that you two want to tell me? You're both on together.
You're fucking killing me, man. Hey,
how so?
Before we get started, can I just ask you, has anybody ever told you you're kind of a cross between Michael Clark Duncan and Bubba Smith?
I don't know. Is Bubba Smith from the Police Academy movies?
No, yeah, he's a football player.
Yeah, he's a bad
dude.
Well, both of them are dead, right? Both of those guys are dead, right?
Michael Clark Duncan, yeah, rest in peace, man. I met that guy. He was a really good guy.
Yeah, I've heard Michael Clark. Well, listen, let me say it like this. I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. You said what, Trump? Trump train?
So are half of Biden's voters, but who's talking?
Oh my God! Yeah.
Oh, shit.
What the fuck is this? A tag team? I'm wrestling Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage at the same time. Okay, I will say this. In regards to myself personally, I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. Just about any dark-skinned, bald-headed guy.
No, Bubba Smith. Look him up. Look up Bubba Smith.
I know who he is. I know who he is. I know exactly. He had a really thick mustache.
And it's not a bad thing. It's not. No, he didn't have a mustache. Bubba Smith. No, no mustache. No mustache.
I'm not saying this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I'm just saying I get compared to a lot of tall, bald-headed black guys.
Well, I get compared to a lot of porn stars, but I ain't complaining.
Well, would Ron Jeremy be one of them?
No, I ain't that big, man. I ain't that fat.
Only in the belly.
I'd rather be. I would hope it would be closer to Peter North than Ron Jeremy. Okay, what do you guys have to say?
You know way too much about fucking porn stars, all right?
Hey, I'm an old man. Randy West, all of them. Randy West is another that put in a lot of work. But what do you guys have to say to me tonight?
I have to say, I don't know why you know all the guys' names. I know all the girls' names, buddy. Hey, but okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to clear it up for you, the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. I'm going to clear up for you why the whole Democrat-Republican thing don't mean shit right now. So first and foremost, the Russia thing with Ukraine. What kind of a country is Russia going to be going into the future when it doesn't need or have a navy because it has no access to the ocean? It's going to be worthless. So
Okay.
Russia's trying to salvage itself from being worthless. Okay, so what they need is they need the access to that part of Ukraine that has the access to the ocean. They're gonna take it whether Ukraine likes it or not. They're gonna fill it in. They're gonna get that little spot. You might see Ukraine shrink. Okay, what you're seeing in
Well, what do you
Ukraine
mean when you
is
say?
part of the.
What do you mean when you say? What do you mean when you say Russia has no access to the ocean? Their whole eastern border is ocean.
Look at it. Look at it.
Am I getting that wrong?
So anyway, beyond that, the Ukraine thing is that you notice it's all on the citizens, and it's sad to say this, and it's a stupid. It's this system that's fucking everything up. But I don't know if you're aware what the number one industry in Ukraine is, but it's pornography.
We is what?
It's pornography. They're number two in the world for the top industry of pornography in any foreign country outside the United States. Colombia's number one. They're number two. You know what
Never heard that.
religion?
Okay.
You know what religion really doesn't like? Pornography. And when I say pornography, it's online cam girls. It's online cam girls. Google it. Feel free.
Well, I get a lot of
But
folks in the comments. I got a lot of folks in the comments that are suggesting wheat is their number one industry.
not number one. Look at where the porn industry stands right now in current society today in Ukraine. It's the number two in the porn industry for all the countries in the world that have the most active industry within their country. Okay, there. If you look at the Russian religion, it's a Christian religion, and it doesn't support any of that whatsoever. So I have a feeling that's probably some of that has to do with that, but that's just me stipulating. Okay. Beyond that,
Well,
though, here's
let me
why none
say
of that
this.
matters. Because
I
what
looked
you
up
don't realize,
online I looked up online in regards to the main industries in Ukraine, and they came up with coal, electric power, ferrous,
I said,
non-ferrous metals,
then the porn
machinery.
industry, they're in the porn industry, they're number two in the world, is what I said. You're looking at what
Based
their
on
main
what
industries
source?
are.
Based on
I'm
what
saying
source?
in the porn industry, in the industry of pornography, Ukraine is number two.
Okay. All right.
You got to look through the porn industry record like that. The
Man,
same
this
exact thing you're
Okay,
doing, but
but
through the porn
what
industry.
I guess I'd have to ask what difference does that make? What is your point in regards to that?
The president himself, Zelensky, a lot of people don't know this either. He was in a little boy band when he was younger. They have video of him dancing around in tight spandex, and he was in a boy band. He's a freak. He's into that kind of freak shit. So that's why I'm saying that I kind of put it together with that. It could be, maybe not, whatever. The reason why none of it's important, and this is why I came in and said that about that whole subject in the first place, because it's not important. Are you aware that the World Health Organization is having their World Health Forum this month? And at the end of the month, they're going to be announcing a world crisis, which was going to put the world under martial law. Are you aware of that at all? Because they're going to announce this whole thing
Wait
with
a minute.
China,
Wait a minute.
and they're going
Hold
to
on.
take that and use it so that
Hold on.
even the
Wait.
United States, all 196 countries, are going to have to submit to a world lockdown. That's what they're coming to decide. Look it
I
up.
guess we'll
Google it.
see.
You're
I
throwing
can
out so much stuff. You're not. Let me tell
So
you
you want
this.
to know why Trudeau is
Hold
doing what he's
on.
doing in Canada? Because of
You're
that.
not. You're not. You're putting way too much out there. You're not giving me a chance to respond to anything. You're
Well,
just
that's
throwing
because you're
stuff
trying to
out there.
think of a response before you
I'm
listen.
not. I'm actually Googling some of the shit you're talking about. You're just not giving me room to come in there. 15 countries that supply the maximum porn online. Number one, the United States provides 24.54% of it. United Kingdom provides 5.49. They're number two. Germany, 4.90%. They're number
That's
three.
income. You're looking at the wrong thing. You're looking at what they're paying. That's the people who are paying for this porn. You're not looking at who's doing the porn. It's the performers. I'm talking about performers. Dude,
Okay.
it's true.
Okay.
It's
I don't
true.
see anything online. I don't see
You're talking
anything
about who
online backing
pays
up
it.
what you're saying.
Of course, they're not going to be number two. They're poor.
Man, this
It's
is
not
off
who pays
subject.
it.
Who
I'm
else
Okay.
is
talking
I
about
mad?
agree
who's
with you.
performing.
Okay, I agree with you, Trump train. This is getting off subject. What point are you trying to make exactly, Tim Mattel?
That what's important right now is that the world is under it's right now they're deciding. And if you watch C-SPAN or you watch the news other than the stupid Roe versus Wade, okay, all of that is part of the big distraction. Okay, the underlying problem here is that they're about to make the world go under lockdown under some pandemic that's fake, and they're going to
Who
do
is
it as
they?
if it's still
Who
active.
who are they? Who
The
are
World
they
Health
that's going to do this?
Organization, the
Who?
World Health Organization. Listen, it's the World Health Organization, the UN, and World Bank together. It's the three of them. It's the World Forum on the
I
World
guess
Health
we'll
Forum
see.
this month.
And how do you know this?
It's on the news if you don't look at the stupid news.
What? Okay, what is the smart news? What is the news that you look at?
When they're about to put us under martial law in the earth,
No,
that's the
that ain't
smart
what
news.
I asked you. That is not what I asked you. I asked you what is the news you look at?
Oh, I get you. That you have to be a good comb. You have to funnel through the nonsense. You have to know when it's some distraction versus when it's actually truth.
Okay, I'm
The
going
Roe
to. Oh,
versus Wade thing. The reason why,
He's
listen.
saying what
The
news?
reason I'm saying what I'm
BBC,
saying,
Newsmax.
the Roe
He
versus Wade thing, okay, is happening because that takes away our right to HIPAA, like the rights they're worried about them taking away. That's the same as Trudeau's. Okay,
okay.
those two rights are stopping world health from coming into our country and just being free to have control. But when they put this what is it called, a state of emergency on us in the world, it gives the health general full right to every country, including the
Okay,
United States.
let me get in. I can't let you just go on Trump train. I hear you trying to get. What are you trying to say in the back? What do you think about
Man,
what this man is throwing out here?
look here. I'm gonna throw y'all something funny. Hey, first off subject. Who else is mad that McDonald's stopped making that steak, bacon, egg, that steak, egg, and cheese bacon? Huh?
Dude,
I
they got
want you to
plastic in
go
that
back
shit.
on. I want you to go back on subject, Trump train. What do you think about what
Hey,
this man is saying?
hey, here's the problem when people do that right there, and you have to wait. I mean, the conspiracy is a conspiracy until it comes to fruition. Now, many conspiracies have come to fruition, so I'm gonna leave that alone. I'll see it, I believe it when I see
You
it kind of shit.
tiptoeing. You tiptoeing. You tiptoeing. This is a
May
no
26th.
snowflake zone.
I
Hang
spoke.
on,
I spoke.
Timoteo.
I
Timoteo,
just
you
did.
got to hang. You got to let somebody else
Hold on.
talk.
I just did the landscape for a Ukrainian couple. Okay, dude, actually, it was a mail order bride. She was absolutely beautiful. But anyway, and I asked her. I said, "Look, I just want to know what the hell is really going on. Do you have some information?" And they both said, "Here's the problem." And some of these people are correct. The media, they said, the media is not going to let you know what you want to know. They're going to tell you half truths. They're going to tell you some stuff that they want you to know, some stuff they don't. And even people over there, if they talk about it, they're persecuted, even by the Ukrainian government. There's a military coming in and seizing people if they speak out against the war. Period.
Okay, well let me say this. I hate to push it onto a different topic, but we're losing the audience. They're in there talking about McDonald's burgers at this point.
Hey,
That's
but
how
there's one other
wild
thing.
this topic is. They went to McDonald's sandwiches as
Can I?
opposed to talking about what Timoteo is discussing. It's so far out of there that they'd rather discuss. We're
I'll send
losing
you
the
all the
audience based
documentation.
on this.
Listen. Also, just so you know, of all the listen, I'm serious. This is
Tap the
true.
screen,
So
folks.
I don't
Tap
know
the
if you're
screen.
aware of this, but World Bank, okay, basically owns. I say owns because every country that in the world that has a national debt pays their national debt to World Bank. Okay. Well, World Bank, okay, has basically taken the gold from every country as collateral for that loan. Okay. Well, the one country that kept their gold so far and is basically the only other country in the world, other than the three that World Bank doesn't own, that has gold is Russia. So Russia is calling us out and saying, put everybody on the gold standard again for everything. That's what we want. So they're saying that because they know already that nobody has gold. Okay. Only they do and World Bank does. They know
All
that.
right. Well, look, listen, Timoteo, I'll let you get your point across. We got to move the program on, man. We got to move. What you're saying is not, and this is a right wing audience, by the way. This is
Did you get my email?
What you're saying is not even popular in this audience. This is a right wing audience. I can't tell you how many folks are in here suggesting that you're either with Q, as in QAnon, or something else, man. So I got to move the program along. There's
Hey,
just no.
check it out.
There's just no.
Whoever wants to prove me wrong can go ahead. I'll listen and I'll even say yes, you did. You proved me wrong. Prove me
All
wrong.
right.
I sent you a bunch of
Okay.
information. Did you get it?
Not, I haven't checked yet. You sent it to my DM?
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else.
All right, I've been watching the 2000 Mules and working all day, man. So I haven't got a chance to get to it, but I promise you I'll check
Dude,
it out.
I
I've been
wanna.
busy.
Then
I
you
want
will
to pick up.
understand.
All right, Timothy. I gotta drop it. Moving on. Okay, Trump,
I want
what's
to pick
up?
up where you was left off. I mean, and you'd have to be an idiot. I mean, to believe that what Putin's doing, regardless of the reason, is okay. So I'm right there with you on that. Okay, it don't matter why, whether it's for a naval base or whether it's to liberate from Nazis, whatever the hell the excuse is. We have ways of voting in and out things, and so did they. They liberated themselves from Russia a long time ago, and I think the biggest problem is like when I spoke to the landscape couple, that it is a 50-50 mix. Okay, you got a lot of Ukrainians that believe that they want to be back under Mother Russia control. They liked it better. And then you have the other 50-50 that say, no, we like the way things are here. So that's where it becomes a problem.
I don't know why it would become a problem. If you had Mexico invading the U.S. and you had a whole lot of, Mexican-born citizens in America saying that we're for Mexico invading the U.S., it's not going to be a problem. We're just going to start killing some of the Mexican citizens too. This is our country, damn it. And this is what the Ukrainians said. I don't care how much you guys like Russia. This is the Ukraine. This is Spartacus. You don't get to say because you like our neighbors that you're down with the neighbors invading us. So
But the
those
problem is,
citizens in Russia, I mean, those Russian citizens in Ukraine or Russian sympathizers in Ukraine, they need to be charged with treason, if you ask me. This is not Russia. If you don't like the Ukraine, then you try to migrate to Russia. But this is Ukraine. You don't get to sympathize with our invaders and suggest that it's cool if they take over the country.
the thing is that, like I said, it goes back to that, and this is what the Ukrainians I spoke to said, and that female that was on your audience a while back that was from Ukraine, said that Eastern Ukraine, okay, is predominantly Russian. They agree with the way they voted like 90% of their common language to be Russian. They didn't want another language. So that tells you something in itself.
Well, let me say this. Look at all of the things we've voted in this country that are in favor of Mexicans and Hispanics. That don't mean we want to be Mexico. I mean, half of the streets in Los Angeles are given Hispanic names. We vote in things in favor of Hispanics all the time, but at the end of the day, we don't want to be Mexico. And I don't know. And real quick, Skip 84 said, Handsome can't agree with the last dude. Give him some slack. I gave him plenty. Listen, I gave Timothy time to get his point across. I just don't agree with it, but I gave him time. I guess the biggest thing I would say with Timothy is the difference when I have somebody on and I don't agree with, like the guy before him suggesting that the citizens in Ukraine have not had their freedom interfered with. Me and him totally disagree. What Timothy was saying, I don't even understand it. So I let the man get his point across about New World Order and all of that stuff. And he states that America has been owned since 1861. And he's not talking about black folks. He's talking about the country as a whole. We've been owned since 1861 and stuff like that. It's not that I agree or disagree. I don't understand it. It's way too complex to me. So even though that is the case, I let that man get his point across enough that I started losing folks in the audience. I can't just let the man spew to the point where it's just me and him talking alone. He was destroying the entire program. But I still tried to ride with him long enough to get his point across, even though probably 40 people dropped out of here.
Like I
Okay,
say,
Trump train, go ahead.
I've sat and listened to a lot of stuff. I want to say that first off, I also agree with a lot of your commentary on reparations. Okay, I mean, you can't be held accountable for something none of us saw. You see what I'm saying? I mean, now, do I believe there should be programs set out there in place for people that come from underprivileged areas or low income or things like that? Just like, we can't be taking away all these after school programs and everything else like that. You got these latchkey kids that come home to no parents. You know what I'm saying? We're living in different times. I also want to say that that dude that was on here, he was light skinned, so I was gonna make a joke. Like, what's he get, like 50% reparations? I mean, how's that work, bro? Come on. Um, I had to
That would
go
have
there.
been rough. That would have been
And
rough. But
listen,
like I said,
and
so
there's
no
people can say what they
snowflakes on.
want
I
about
would have
me.
let you say it. I would have
People
let
can
you
say what
say
they
it.
want. You know how I speak. And listen, I got just me black friends, I got white friends, and the same thing with my family members. So they can say whatever they want. They can try to destroy my shine. I'm okay with it. But I do also agree that
a lot of white people don't understand what it's like to grow up as a black person. I tell you that because I've grown up with these people here. You know what I'm saying? All my friends, all my family. And I have friends that are scared to come in my neighborhood. They'll be driving by and they'll be like, oh man, I'm not coming there. The police was sitting outside your neighborhood, sitting there, you know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, they're looking for you. They're just looking for speeders. It's okay. And they're like, no, no, no. So, I mean, I get it. I get it because I see it
Well,
happening to my people.
in what you're saying, I understand the validity of that. When it comes to black or white people being afraid to go to black neighborhoods, it's because of the citizens. The citizens might get you. When it becomes blacks afraid to go to white neighborhoods, it is the cops. The citizens aren't going to mess with you generally. It's the police. Right. And that's probably why, even to this day, there is a heavy friction relationship between black folks and the cops, is because a lot of America's racism was enforced by the cops. They were the primary implementers of all of the racist ways of the country, whether it's eating in the wrong restaurant or drinking from the wrong water fountain or going into the wrong neighborhood. The first line of defense against that was going to be the police. And oftentimes they did a lot of this stuff autonomously and proactively. They just did it on their own. And that hasn't been that long ago. I would say well up until at least the 1980s or later. There are plenty of neighborhoods that if you went into, you were going to encounter some police resistance just simply by being in that neighborhood. Not talking 1800s, not talking 1920s. I'm talking like 1980s or late. And I'll give you a primary example of my own. And even though I haven't encountered a lot of racism at all from myself, I remember as a little kid, my dad, just coming home from Vietnam, he had a Mark, I believe it was a Lincoln Mark IV, would have been a car from the early mid 1970s. He had a used Lincoln Mark IV. And I remember him telling me as a young kid, he would keep his Illinois Bell. He worked for Illinois Bell, the phone company. He would keep the hard hat in the front window. And he told me as a young kid, I do this so the cops will know I got a job and they won't mess with me. And I was about 4 or 5 years old at that time. We had a Lincoln Mark IV was a nice car. It was a nice car for an African American to have at that time. We grew up kind of middle class. And I remember him telling me that as a young kid, that I keep this in the window so the cops will know I got a job. And everywhere he drove, can you imagine having a Lincoln or an Escalade or a Navigator and you got to keep a hard hat in the window of it? I mean, he kept a hard hat in the window of his car, and that was his mantra, is because this way they'll know I have a job.
You're right, though. I mean, that goes back to a lot of people don't know what people walk around with. They don't know what they carry. You know, it's a very open-ended question. If you say, how you doing today? Somebody might have just lost their father. You know what I mean? Do you really want to know how that person's doing today? Like I say, hey, I know you'd asked me a question a while back. I don't want to take up too much of your time in case you got somebody else that wants to come in. You said something about Trump. You're like, okay, well, why does he not want to? Or you said, what was it? Oh, somebody in his ear. We were talking about being in his ear and giving him advice and stuff like that. And we were talking about the Alabama rally and that with the vaccine.
Yes.
Man, at this point, I don't even know if he'd want to prove that the election was stolen. Would you want to? Would you want to come back into this country right now and try to switch hands, even if you had the chance to? Would you want to?
He would. If you're a true leader and you truly care about your people, you're willing to come up and take the helm anytime. Yeah, I believe he'd come back.
Okay.
I mean, I believe that. If he truly cares about the country and really thinks he can lead the country in the right direction, certainly with the way the country is going right now. Plus, let's be real, Trump is an egomaniac. Trump is a narcissist. He would love to be able to step up and say, look, I saved America in the middle of Biden's term. He was doing so bad. They called me back, and look at the great economy. You think Trump wouldn't love to revel in that?
Yeah, somebody else had also talked on your thing. I've been staying out here for about an hour or two with you about the XL pipeline. Now, a lot of literature I read says that it was shut down. I mean, there's other pipelines that are open, and then even the White House had did a thing where the Secretary of State said that there were permits, hundreds or something of permits, but that doesn't mean that they were allowed to continue the process. Just because you got permits doesn't mean I get permits every day, doesn't mean I get the job.
Yeah. Well, I have a hard time buying the notion that President Biden had nothing to do with increased fuel prices, because he just made a few changes a month or so ago and he's brought the price of fuel down. So it's hard to say he's not responsible for it going up when he could easily make a change and make it go down. But in addition to that, my spiel on this is that he wanted to move us to alternative energies. He caved too quickly to the far left, wanted to move us to alternative energies, wanted to move us off of fossil fuels, and we don't have the infrastructure or the technology in place to fully do that. But he did it quick enough that the price of fuel at the pump shot up, and it's caused goods and services inflation to go up everywhere because everything is delivered with gas or fuel. Planes, trains, and automobiles, everything that delivers to us, trucks and everything, it all uses gas. So if the price of the pump goes up, everything else is going to go up from a trickle down effect. But I do believe that President Biden is personally responsible for a lot of that. Maybe not all of it. It's happening on a global scale. I understand that, but we don't always suffer the same way the rest of the world does. We have our own energy reserves, so we don't have to pay the same price in terms of we have the ability to drill in this country. And Biden limited that. He cut some of that off as well. So yeah, I don't. There's no way I'm going to believe that with the way fuel prices have went up, that Joe Biden has zero responsibility for that. I just don't buy that, and I'm a liberal saying that. I don't buy that.
I agree with some of the guests too. Like you've said, people don't complain about spending $6 on a Starbucks coffee. You know, I've said that, many people stand in line to buy a gallon of beer costs about $12, always has, maybe $15, $20 for a 12-pack of beer. But you don't hear nobody complaining about that they spend $12 on a gallon of beer,
Yeah,
So
that is true. That is true. Okay, well, like
all
I
right,
said,
brother.
come on through. I'm gonna go ahead and let you get the last word. I'm gonna move it on, but yeah,
As
I
always,
don't know.
glory to God.
Absolutely. Appreciate you coming through, man. Have a good night.
All right, see.
All right. Okay, folks.
Comments in, go ahead and wrap up the program. Some of these callers, and it's always a pleasure talking to Trump train. Fuck Biden. It's always a pleasure talking to him, but Timoteo, like I said, man, I don't know what to say on some of the stuff you were saying. Some folks in the audience said what you're saying may be true, potentially. I don't know if we're headed for New World Order or some type of one world government. I know a lot of folks on the right does believe that. I've been hearing that since the Bill Clinton administration. So the vast majority of my adult life, I've been hearing that the UN is going to rule the world, and I've never seen any type of significant advances in that direction. So until I see it, it's only an allegation or it's only an accusation at this point. Do you think Democrats drink? Yeah, it's that one, Jacob L. Kiko. We talked about that earlier. Do you think Democrats drink baby blood and all of that QAnon and stuff? It all boils down to the Great Reset, and that's the new term for as far that I'm hearing. It used to be New World Order and One World Government. Now they're starting to call it it's starting to tie into the Great Reset and all of that. I look at the world as divided as it is, where they can't agree on hardly anything. China wants to take over Taiwan. Russia wants to take over most of Eastern Europe and reestablish the Soviet Union. And there's a host of other countries from Kim Jong-un in North Korea. There's a host of other countries having problems. And we never even get into what's going on the continent of Africa, like one of the other viewers suggested. The idea that all of these folks are going to come together for some kind of new world order, it doesn't make sense to me. There's way too much division. There's way too many disagreements and things like that going on to think we're going to have a one world government or a great reset. Now, we may have a great war. I can see that. But New World Order just doesn't make sense to me. Too many different mindsets in countries that don't agree with each other and want nothing to do with the other country. I don't even think look at the European Union, for instance. Countries that normally would be considered allies. Brexit, they're even coming apart. The countries aren't coming together to form a new world order or some type of one world government. They're coming apart. They're actually coming apart. Same thing in the United States. We're not even necessarily united. We're coming apart. Hell, some would argue that we're one step from a civil war. So coming together to form a new world order or one world it just doesn't make sense based on what I'm seeing. Not saying it couldn't possibly happen, but the optics right now do not lead me into that direction. Listen, folks, 7 p.m. Central. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's your boy Tim of the Handsome Liberal.